Can people hear us? Can people see us? Um,
It appears
don't
we
do that
are
to me, Alex. Don't do that.
we're on the air.
Yes, we're on the air. We're not recording just yet. We'll record at the usual time. We're here for the chat. How are you guys doing tonight? Well, not flashbacks, including the Joker. I'm sorry, I don't have the budget for that, TJ. But then again, neither does Jared Leto. Let's see. I'm live and in Technicolor. Are we in Panavision? Can we double check Alice to see if we're in Panavision?
I clearly would not be in Panavision.
Are we Laserdisc viable?
I think we barely make VHS grade.
Okay, all right. What about Beta? Because Beta was superior. You know that, right?
We might be okay with Beta.
Okay, all right. Except if Spike kicks the Beta player, then we're screwed. Oh wait, you've never seen Cowboy Bebop? That's on you.
Yeah.
So first of all, how is everybody doing in chat? Thank you guys for coming so early. We're doing this as kind of a special deal, not just because we love you guys, but we also wanted to just do something special, especially me, because I had kind of a good week, even though I was often on vacation. I got quite a few subscribers and kind of a nice little footstep towards 100. So I wanted to do this to thank you guys, but also since we are talking about Suicide Squad, I'd like to see what you guys thought of it if you guys have already seen it. Now I'm going to warn people in the chat right now. This is going to be a spoiler-heavy review. Okay, so if you haven't seen it, you can join us for the half hour. But after that, I have nothing. I have no guarantees for you. You are going to get spoiled. You heard TG, you heard mixed things about the movie. Well, I don't know what to tell you, man. Because I think you're going to get a mixed viewpoint tonight. I really do. I know that at least a few of us are maybe on the fence with it, but some are not. I don't know about certain panelists, but I have a feeling some of them did like it. This is funny. I'm doing this live, and then I'm also talking to somebody via another chat. So, sorry, guys, if I seem a little distracted. I'm just trying to handle some business, too. Let's see. Critics hate it, but some people know I like it. Some people I know like it on Facebook.
It is a very mixed and polarizing movie, perhaps even more so than Batman v Superman.
No, Batman v Superman, like, I would actually dare say this is probably critically probably up there like Man of Steel, where it's directly 50-50. Batman v Superman, I think, was a little bit more 60-40, 70-30.
Right.
There was a lot more people not liking Batman v Superman than there were liking it. Granted, a lot of that is based off of Rotten Tomato, Metacritic reviews, as well as like Twitter and all that stuff. So that's kind of hard to go off of, but that's also just kind of my observation. A lot of people still rigorously defend Man of Steel as being a good movie and being a good take on Superman with the dark turn. Not so much with Batman v Superman. TG, which is better than Suicide Squad or Scooby-Doo 2? I can't comment. I haven't seen the Scooby-Doo movies.
I would say, and look, I'm somebody who actually enjoyed the first Scooby-Doo movie, the live-action one. But I will definitely say,
even I could have told you that was going to be a train wreck waiting to happen, and I saw Wing Commander.
I enjoyed the first Scooby-Doo movie. Maybe because I'm not a huge Scooby-Doo fan to begin with.
No, that's not what I mean. I saw the train wreck coming when I saw those two put together, Freddie Prinze and what's the other guy's name?
Matthew Lillard. When they got paired again, because like I said, I'm like you. I saw Wing Commander. I saw the train wreck that was. The second one I didn't care for as much. I think mostly because the first one felt kind of almost like a parody of the Scooby-Doo franchise itself. The second one felt more like a straight-on live-action episode of Scooby-Doo. I'm kind of in the minority. I don't really hate the live-action Scooby-Doos.
I'm not a fan of Scooby-Doo. It's not... Okay, people have already gotten on my case about this. I'm not a fan because I didn't watch it growing up. So I have no fondness or affection for it. And I've seen older episodes of Scooby-Doo, and they're fine, but I've never been able to get attached. So I didn't see the live-action movie. I didn't see the straight-to-DVD ones that came out, and I haven't seen any of the revival series that have come, simply because I didn't grow up with it, and therefore I'm not interested. So it's not that I hate the franchise. I didn't grow up with it. And therefore which is funny because all of the stuff that happened before it, I grew up with that, but not Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo.
So like, I'm a Yogi Bear fan, and I'm a Huckleberry Hound fan, and all of that stuff. But when it comes to Scooby-Doo, no.
No.
I can't get into it.
I used to actually watch What's New Scooby-Doo because it preceded the few anime shows that were still around at that time.
I'm just trying to get this thing figured out. Alex probably knows what I'm doing, but I've actually maybe got something worked out with a buddy of mine who is also on YouTube, and so we're just trying to work out some details.
First
Scooby-Doo was fine, but the second movie was just a shitty train wreck.
Yeah,
I'll take your word for it.
Again, the second one, it was not as fun as I didn't have as much fun with the second as I did the first. But again, that's mostly because the second just feels like an episode.
What about the straight to DVD one? Did you see that?
No, I only saw the two movies. From...
Oh no! You know what? You watch Cartoon Network. You had to have seen it. They've put it up who knows how many times.
I specifically went out of my way to not see it because I don't. It's just.
And I'm okay with that.
See, with the first one, my sister / your wife actually took me to see it because I guess she wanted to see it, and that's how I saw the first movie.
Well then, TG, I don't know what to tell you, but I guess the Antichrist is on the podcast.
He's the Antichrist of Hanna-Barbera. I remember some...
Honestly. Like, even all the Yogi movies I liked. As a kid. I don't know if I'd like them now. I haven't seen them in years, but
yeah, I remember watching some Hanna-Barbera shows when I was really, really, really young, probably no more than 4 or 5, toddler age. That, I remember a little bit of the Jetsons. I remember a little bit of Yogi Bear. Mostly I remember the Yogi Bear Easter special because I remember we had that on tape. So my sister and I would probably watch that every Easter.
All I remember was the one movie that I remember was the one where Yogi's girlfriend gets kidnapped by aliens.
Oh my god! Oh,
I could not tell you the plot to save a lot, like how they get her out or anything like that. I could not tell you that, but
right.
that night I remember when back in early Nickelodeon days, before they had Nicktoons, they actually would do marathons of Yogi Bear.
Mm-hmm.
And I would watch that because I always found them entertaining. It's one of those things that's kind of weird with me. As a kid, things like Looney Tunes and Looney Tunes, old Disney cartoons, Tom and Jerry, they were funny to me. They were enjoyable. And going back and watching them now, I'm not saying that they're not funny, but I definitely don't get as much enjoyment out of them as I did when I was a kid.
I don't know. They're never on enough for me to really say how I feel on them now.
I honestly thought about getting the full-on collections that are on DVD for my daughter, but just because I'm more comfortable with that than SpongeBob Adventure Time, all that.
You give too much crap to SpongeBob.
I do.
Again,
it's well deserved.
No, it's not. Again, I just say watch the first 4 years of the show, and it's perfectly fine.
That's the problem, is that when I watch SpongeBob, it's in syndication, and now they don't show the first 4 years. They show everything else.
Yeah, they do.
I'm not saying that every SpongeBob episode is bad,
but
just there's just enough jokes in there that are just brain cell losing that I just can't get into the series. How's Harley Quinn's booty? No comment.
It's very bootylicious.
My oldest nephew likes Tom and Jerry and SpongeBob. All right. Like classic Tom and Jerry or the revival that Cartoon Network did? Because I'm talking classic Tom and Jerry.
Classic.
You know, the stuff that if people have seen the Simpsons episode about Itchy and Scratchy getting censored, that's what they were referencing, is all of the classic Tom and Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
They love and share. They love and love and share. Love, 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 share, share, share. The Itchy and Scratchy Show. Okay, classic Tom and Jerry. Yeah, because that's good. The new stuff, I've watched a little bit of it, and no, I can't do it. And again, I'm gonna say with SpongeBob, you can you guys can like SpongeBob. I can't, because I do like to have a little bit more smart humor, and
it is though.
No.
You keep saying
the
it's
majority
dumb.
of the episodes are dumb. They're dumb.
If you're watching everything post 2005, everything before that is actually really clever.
There's a lot of pre 2005 that has some stupidity to it. Like, for example, the one that I can't watch because it annoys the living crap out of me, and this is pre 2005, so you cannot complain. Is the one that I always caught on syndication for forever. Where SpongeBob gets lost in rock bottom.
That one's really great.
No, it's horrible. I hate the jokes in it. I've seen them so many times. They are done. I didn't even laugh at them the first time.
Adam, you're just a cynical old fart.
I know, and you kids can get off my lawn.
Yeah, that did make me think why people might kind of interpret your lack of interest in Pokemon Go as like hatred, because every time you seem to mention it, it's like you get this throbbing vein in your forehead, and you always have this like angry tone to your voice. It's like, Pokemon Go, it's gonna be the end of us. It's apocalypse, I say.
The problem is like every time we have a reason to bring it up, it's because of somebody else doing something stupid.
Though I brought up some
with
like
Pokemon Go.
Though I brought up some like just legitimate business news regarding the Pokemon Go.
What was it?
Let me find the thread. I think one was about like Niantic changing up terms of services a little bit, shutting down like the Finder. It's in the feed somewhere.
Pre-release or post?
What?
Is it pre-release or post?
Post-release.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is post-release. That was when I started getting flooded with every stupidity story on Pokemon Go. So it's not like I don't hate the game. I hate the stupidity that's surrounding it. And that's what makes my head hurt. Because I talked positively about Pokemon Go. I felt great for Pokemon fans. I thought it was right up their alley. Mm-hmm. But I did say back then, too, that as at least as far as a fan as I am of Pokemon, I'm not going to go with it. And it's just because I like to go with the gens. So that's the thing to keep in mind.
If I had a
Pokemon, Scooby-Doo, and SpongeBob hater. Okay.
If I had a smartphone, I myself would like to play Pokemon Go, but I don't.
You totally would.
Yeah.
I mean, if my wife had it, she'd have it, or
Mhm.
had a smartphone, she'd have it, and I'd be okay with that. Like if anything, if she had it, I'd probably play it with her. But I wouldn't be diehard about it. Like I wouldn't be going out of my way to look for Pokemon.
I could just see, you two put your daughter in the stroller and you walk around the neighborhood together. It's so cute and sweet. And
but that's the extent of it. Is like I wouldn't like go out of my way to go outside to go look for Pokemon. I'd get no work done.
Well, with that attitude, you'll never be the very best, like no one ever was.
I already am the very best, at least as far as I'm concerned. Because to catch them is not my real test, and to train them is not my cause.
Then what is your real test and cause?
Being a geek. I don't know. I did my collecting when I was a kid. I mean, I had like every stinking Transformer out there.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of those things. And the other thing too with Pokemon is like, I get the whole gotta catch them all thing, but the numbers keep growing. I'm just like, I'm only interested in this one, and this one, and these other 10 until the next badass looking Pokemon I'm not caring about. I'm just not into the cutesy. Deadshot versus Deadpool. Who wins in a death battle? Deadpool. Because Deadshot can put in as many bullets as he wants. Deadpool keeps coming.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. In that death battle, we're going to get some really good shots. Like, I would love to see Deadpool just, like, do the tushy tease from anime, and all of a sudden Deadshot just shoots him right in the butthole. Like, come on, Deadshot. I heard you can hit everything right on the mark. Ow! And it also depends. Which Deadshot are we talking about, TG? Are we talking about Will Smith Deadshot, or are we talking about CW Deadshot?
Or comics Deadshot, or I don't know where else Deadshot
I can't really speak on comics Deadshot. I've seen him a couple of times in the comics, but a lot of the ones that he's in, I don't follow. But Deadshot should win because Will Smith being Will Smith. You and I are going to disagree on this one, TG.
Hit the deck. Yeah, excuse me again.
He's in fact one of my problems with Suicide Squad. I love it. Alex leaves me to get eaten alive by the chat. I'm sorry. Will Smith is not the greatest actor ever, as people like to tell me that he is. He's got some issues. I think he is overestimated greatly. Catch up, because I know this is gonna happen. Better get ripped to shreds by the chat. /unsub. Let's see. And we should have the others coming along pretty shortly. I'm kidding, of course. I would pick Deadpool. Yes. I would also pick Deadpool, but that's just because, well, that's kind of an unfair fight. Oh, look who decided to come back, Mr. Run for Cover.
No, didn't anticipate on starting early, so unfortunately I'm a little unprepared.
Neither did I. So you could technically say that you are not prepared. It's kind of hard for me to not do that joke, man. I've been doing WoW for like the last 4 months as content on the channel. And frankly, your more recent review is going to involve a WoW joke. So
yeah. Well, I figured I have to give you just a cameo outside the whole Anno spiel we keep doing, because I think you'll murder me if I don't. Yeah,
I probably will, because it's one of those things where I I'm indifferent to Hideaki Anno. I really don't care, but I just want people to understand. I want the fans to understand that this is the guy that's going to constantly give you the middle finger as he gives you what you want.
He'll give you what you want when he feels damn well like he wants.
A friend of mine just barely made a pitch to me on how Hideaki Anno should do the next live action Attack on Titan movie.
Hey, his co-director for Godzilla did it, so why not?
Just think about that. Attack on Titan with tons and tons of Christian symbolism and psychological mumbo jumbo. I'm just gonna I gotta go get more water, but I'm gonna let that sink in for the chat.
Oh, you're leaving me here alone? I can't entertain people for God knows how long. So, yeah, hi, how's everybody doing? I'm here while Drac scurries off to get water. How's everyone doing? Everyone good tonight? Good? 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 That's good. You can see this is why I really don't do my own live streams very often, because I am not an entertaining person, really. I go off script and I just get tongue-tied and twisted, and I don't know what to say most of the time. And now I'm chasing away all our viewers because you came for the wonderful roundtable discussion of Suicide Squad, and here I am, this lone guy just sitting here desperately trying to entertain you. I'm so very sorry, people. Message retracted, huh? Okay. Oh, Drac is back.
People will ignore the mess behind me. I'm getting back from a vacation.
Vacation, which you've still worked on.
Yes, technically.
Hey, Romney's here.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Dude, I gotta do something. I can't relax. It's not one of those things that works. Sorry, Rodney. I keep interrupting.
Yeah. I cut it kind of close to up and having a little issues with some of the authentication since I had to set up two-step verification on all my accounts. And so wasn't letting me in for some reason.
Nope. You're all good. We're just getting things started. I started things up a little early for people. And it looks like people like how this works, so maybe we'll try this out next week. And I can't promise that people are going to be here a half hour early because people have lives. I know, in fact, if I actually made Aldo do it, he wouldn't be able to do it. But we'll see what we can make work out. But technically, I am taking a vacation tonight, Alex, because this is not a complex agenda. This is me talking about Suicide Squad. Welcome, Edward Argelis. I think I'm saying that right. If I'm not, I'm sorry. Bust a freestyle, my dude. No. I'll bust my back doing that. I may be a geek, but I'm an old geek. A very, very old geek. Isn't it get off my lawn, geek? Get off my lawn. I specifically picked all the colors of grass to make a Superman logo on my lawn. Don't you laugh. I've seen people do it.
Okay, there we go.
And Romney wants Crystal Pepsi, damn it.
Yeah, because I've been trying to find... I've been going from store to store, and I can't find it.
I think you're just after.
You told me. My Walmart has it, like, all the way up and down their pop aisle.
Really?
Yeah.
We gotta
well, I know where I'm going to stop on Wednesday.
we gotta do a pop run.
Yeah, like all the end sections for the aisles have Crystal Pepsi in them. And
Yeah, because none of the stores...
all with a sign saying for a limited time.
Yeah, none of the stores on the west side have it. Like, at all.
Go on rap? No. I am way too old to rap.
Go on rap, weirdo.
I can't even play that funky music. It can't happen. Because then people would have to see me dance. And that's just something you don't want to see.
Well, unless you want to see an old bumper I made for the show, like way back when.
Welcome, Atlas. Glad to see you. Do we smoke, or have we ever smoked? No.
Nope.
I'm a fairly boring individual.
Plus, in my case, a history of respiratory illnesses kind of makes you very appreciative of your lungs.
Yeah. Oh, awesome anime fan, welcome! And you just barely saw Suicide Squad.
Okay, excellent.
I'm both happy and sad for you at the same time.
Like people keep making like all the various squad jokes. I just keep thinking of that Monty Python sketch where it's like, "Squad, cap it up."
If Brenton is not on tonight, then I'm going to be kind of outnumbered.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. I believe he said he was going to be able to make it. Is that not the case?
I don't know.
I mean, let me send a quick message to him and see if it still works,
really
or if he's too busy hanging out with his boyfriend.
Yeah, just haven't heard much from him in the news threads that we put up. So
let's quickly message him just to make sure. We have girlfriends. You can't see it, but there's a ring on this.
Yep, he's married, and I am single.
Please don't make a sales pitch right now.
Yeah. And for people asking, the only expression I'll respond with is toujours célibataire. I'll leave that to you to decipher.
Okay. No idea. Let me think about it. Nope, still clueless. I thought I heard celibacy in there. I have no idea.
Well, again, that's for me to know and for the internet to decipher if they can figure out the language.
Oh, dude, I just barely had a person leave a comment, and I had to use Google Translate, and I still love the fact that it still couldn't translate one word, and it was German, so it was something along the lines of like "great video, dude."
Yeah, I'm trying.
It wouldn't translate that one word, so I'm like, I need to know what that word was, and so I put the individual word in there, and it was horny. So I can only presume that translation was horny great video, thanks dude. Something like that.
Fun with Google Translate.
Yeah. For some reason, I'm not able to access the chat because for some reason my laptop will not let me sign in.
Ah! No!
Okay, now it seems to be going. I just don't get what... Yeah, I get it. Again, it's this. Although it's more secure for two-step verification, it tends to cause a bunch of things to lock up. There we go.
See. So we'll give a couple of minutes to see if Brinton and Aldo show up. If not, then we'll just go ahead and start things up. We'll start officially recording. That work for people?
Yep.
Yep.
Can't wait for the big talk. It's like the NFL season coming back. I wouldn't know, TG. I stopped watching the NFL, like... Yep, Joe Montana was still playing when I stopped watching the NFL. I couldn't follow it anymore.
About the NFL. So I don't watch sports. Yes, I'm the very cliche.
Didn't we talk about Google Translate being a bitch last time? I don't know.
I don't
Did
think
we?
so. I don't recall us talking about Google Translate before now.
So? I'll take your word for it, awesome anime fan.
All right. We got 9 watching right now.
Hey.
There we go. Now I am in the chat.
Oh, no. Chat, you're doomed. Doomed! You have no idea what's coming, chat.
Alright, now let's see what that German word is, because I might be able to decipher it.
It's Gelles, I think, is how it's said.
Let's see.
I could probably spell it for you as long as it doesn't have an accent, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look through the chat log here to try to find it. It's just tricky since there's the constant updates. Okay, so I know it was after Go On Rap.
No, it's not. It wasn't a chat comment. It was a comment that I got on a video.
Oh.
So
Okay.
give me a second, I can get it for you. So I just gotta go into my community stuff and then I can grab it. can at least say that Germany loves me. I guess the country of Germany doesn't like me, but because they keep on banning my videos.
Let's see. Okay. Yeah, beat mehr. Let's see. Beat mehr davon. Let's see what I can find out.
And Atlas Doom. Times like these, I really wish I had a GIF that I could put up of Bender doomed.
Anybody proficient in German? They want to help answer Drax's mysterious comments.
Well, like I said, I Google translated it, so.
Well, besides having to rely on Google Translate.
So, looking at it, it's basically the general gist of it is like, great video, more please.
Okay, all right, that's what I thought it was.
Yeah, that seems to be the general gist of it. Again, I'm not as familiar with German. I just happen to have a lot of friends. One who lives in Germany, or well, can't really say if I consider friends anymore, given how it's been so long. But let's just say they're. Long story short, my high school had 3 German exchange students, and so German kind of became the. I guess the best term would be the langue du jour. Yeah. Or, because I can't quite say it's the lingua franca, because then we'd all be speaking German at the high school, because it didn't quite get that, because the lingua franca was still English, but it was kind of the niche, everyone wants to learn language for a while. It bumped Japanese for like that 1 year.
Well, I sent it over to a buddy of mine that knows German, but he's a lawyer, so he's not going to get to it for like a week. So now I have the translation. I don't need him anymore, I guess.
Yeah.
Suicide Booth, what awesome anime fan. This is not a suicide booth, and that's great and all that you're sitting there in the dark watching this. Your fandom is appreciated. Now bring me more subscribers, damn you. No, I'm kidding. No, seriously, guys, thank you so much for all the subscribers that came in over the last week. I appreciated it, because I want to be able to hit that milestone, but, you know.
You just need 6 more, and he's at 100.
And then if I hit 100, I'm going to do an Ask Me Anything live stream, and who knows, maybe these 2 yahoos will show up.
Maybe.
And
just in case you guys didn't see it, the next series of Gaming with the Geeks is up. The first 3 parts of Metal Gear with our own Shadow Blazer, as well as Romney, who is actually at the helm for it.
Mm-hmm.
We're going old school.
Yeah, because I'm the resident Metal Gear player who actually tries for stealth.
Well, you're also the resident competent Metal Gear player. Because if we were playing this, I'd be running around in circles. Really.
Yeah, just given how lost we got quite a few times during the first session. Yeah.
Well, we got that fixed, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. But yeah, we do have a couple of parts where we did get, we got stuff done, but unfortunately we kept getting lost. So I've got a little walkthrough that we can that we can use to help us along the way. Okay, it's 5 minutes in, and I haven't heard anything from Aldo or Brinton. So let's just go ahead and get things started. And if they join in, then great. If not, then I'm sorry, guys. You're going to be seriously lacking some raging bat boners tonight. And some sassy senoritas.
All right. Sound speed.
Okay. Mine is good.
Rolling.
All right, so you guys get to see us do this. So, in 3, 2, 1. This is to help it think so that I can get there quicker. I can get it out much, much quicker. Let's see. So, here we go. Welcome, everybody, to another absolutely awesome episode of Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions. I'm your host, Adam Mickelson. I hope everybody has had a wonderful week. I just spent the last 5 days, I thought I was going to spend them in a coma, but that didn't happen. I actually had things to do, but thankfully I got a vacation because I really, really needed a vacation. I didn't even realize how much I needed one, but I did. So that's great. And of course, I'm being joined by my lovely panel of fellow YouTubers, fellow geeks, fellow critics, and fellow all-around nice guys. And we're going to go ahead and start with Stephen Romney of Romney's Reviews from the shelf. And apparently he wants a Crystal Pepsi. Damn it, somebody get on that.
Yeah, the reason for that is because I keep hearing that it's out, but apparently none of the stores near where I live seem to carry it. And I've looked, and I've looked, and I've looked, and I've looked.
You should have texted me like 2 hours ago because I had to go over to Walmart to get milk, and that's what I noticed.
Well, given that we'll be recording later on in the week, I know where I'll need to stop off before arriving at your place.
Exactly.
Yeah, you just made these, like, if my car is like moving slowly more than usual, you'll probably know why.
Well, the thing is, like, I was tempted to get some because not Brad, one of Brad Jones's crew, the Cinema Snobs crew, put up if you don't, I don't know how to explain the video. If you don't drink Crystal Pepsi, you're racist or something like that. And I almost wanted to put up like a video reply, just like drinking Crystal Pepsi and going, "Oh, it's horrible! I guess I'm racist."
No, that's what you just have to do a Donald Trump impersonation and drink the Crystal Pepsi.
I don't have the hair for a Donald Trump impersonation. And of course, we are also being joined by the Shadow Blazer himself, Alex Short, who also joined me on the vacation. How are you doing, Alex?
Yes, I joined him on the vacation because that's just how tight-knit partners we really are. We do everything together. We both dance like we want to win. Evangelion reference. No, of course, truth is, if nobody's gotten this memo. Yes,
no, you know what? I'm stopping you right there because you brought in the dance reference, so who's Asuka?
I don't know who's Asuka. I don't want to go that deep.
Okay, all right.
Adam,
then maybe rethink your references.
Let's not get Inception on this, Adam. Let's just leave it on the surface.
We can't get Inception. I don't have a big gong.
Anyway.
All you need is a foghorn. You don't even need a gong. All you need is a foghorn. You just need to play Je ne regrette rien at a very slow speed, and you're good.
Something like that. So yeah,
but yes,
going back to vacation, and well, you had to work, unfortunately.
Yeah, I had to work this morning. One day back, and I already had to go back to work. But that's because I got to get work to make money for Anime Bonsai, so I can go and have fun and buy stuff and see all the lovely people out there. But yes, I went on vacation. I did relax because I played more into Fire Emblem Fates. I don't know if you can see that very well, but I played more Fire Emblem and read more Harry Potter and the Cursed Child and watched some anime. So all in all, good vacation.
And also we are being joined by a live chat, which actually got to come in here an extra half hour early. So welcome, chat. I hope everybody had a great weekend. And we just early had a TG5455 mention. So not drinking Crystal Pepsi means you're a racist? Ghostbusters much? LOL. I guess. Because again, that just walks me right into the other problem. So obviously, if you guys haven't read the title of this episode, it doesn't have a date because we're actually going to be getting together to do a group review. Now, we did expect to have at least two others on the panel, but unfortunately we haven't heard anything from them, so if they show up, then they show up. But we are going to be tackling a group review for Suicide Squad. Now, we kind of timed this out so that we could do a spoiler review. Because now it's been 2 weeks, the dust has settled, all of this stuff... all of the stuff has been said, if it's going to be said. So, and Brenton just barely texted me. He is, okay, I'm going to say this live, I don't care. He is too busy playing WoW to join the podcast. Gee, I almost thought that'd be me.
Well, to be fair, I can't say I blame him because, well, anything seems a bit, to kind of lay my cards on the table, even like watching paint dry would be a bit more preferable to having to see Suicide Squad again.
Well, that's kind of the part that I'm worried about, at least for this review, is because now here's the thing. We all were anticipating Suicide Squad was going to be good, and for the last couple of years we've actually been talking about it fairly positively. We liked what they were doing with it. We had a few, like, here and there we all had problems with certain decisions on casting, on directors, things like that. But overall, the talk that we've been doing about Suicide Squad was positive. In fact, one of the things that came up quite a bit on our Batman v Superman review was that Suicide Squad could literally get us out of this rut that Batman v Superman has put us in, and that we hoped it did that. So, first of all, I'm going to tease Brinton a little bit.
Awkward silence.
Sorry. Yeah, talk for me, please. Okay, there we go.
For the people listening at home after the fact, Adam is literally texting on his phone on the air.
Yes, I am. There you go.
Real professional.
Just because I wanted to give that crap to Brinton. But, so, here's the thing. We wanted to be able to do this to have spoilers kind of taken care of. People, like the people who are going to see Suicide Squad have now since seen it. He says, fine, no shame. So there you go. That's Brinton's take on this. So we are going to be talking about it spoiler heavy. So I'm going to warn the chat right now.
And anybody listening after the fact as well.
If you haven't seen Suicide Squad and you want to go in spoiler free, thank you so much for watching the video, and go watch it and then check this out later. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. We're not going to go into like a plot synopsis or anything like that. This is going to be mainly just a discussion on whether or not Suicide Squad not necessarily was good or bad, but whether or not it hit all the points that we thought it needed to hit. So let's see. I guess the best place to start was kind of our overall opinions on it. And to answer the question, how many days did we go for vacation? I think it was 5, wasn't it?
4 days.
4 days? Okay. Feels like 5 to me. So let's just go ahead and go around the table on what people thought of the movie. Unfortunately, we weren't able to see it together. So I guess I'll go ahead and start. And my viewpoint was I'm kind of 50-50 with it. There was a lot that I had issues with the movie, but I did walk away liking a few aspects. So at that point, I'm not saying that I absolutely hate it. I mean, for crying out loud, I don't. There were a couple of things that I thought were good, but the rest was frustrating. But yeah, I'm kind of 50-50 on it. Romney, people can see your review, but you now had a couple of weeks to kind of reflect on that. Has your opinion changed?
Not by much, because, again, it had some ideas that worked, but the tone was all over the place, and really there was just a lot of problems with the way the story was structured that really hindered it. I mean, with the structure as is, it would have only worked if this was like much, much later down the line in the DC Cinematic Universe, after each of those characters and the world had been established. But here, it literally is, oh, well, we're missing a bunch of chunks to this story, and thus the structure just doesn't really work. I mean, I argued in the review how they should have chose one character to be the audience proxy to slowly learn about who these other characters are, so that way you're not having to front-load the whole film with a bunch of exposition. And really, this film just reeks of executive meta. Like, there was maybe semblances of a good idea, but then you had a bunch of panicked executives who saw how people responded to the humorous trailers, how people responded to Batman v Superman, and are basically just like, well, crap, what do we do? That's why they had to do the whole reshoots, because they had the trailer with all the jokes, and they're just like, well, crap, those are all the jokes we had in the movie. We got to reshoot this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of agree on that one. It very much reeks of reshoots, a lot of reshoots. Because I remember the joke trailers, but I also remember when they try to take, maybe I'm the only one that does, but they had to do a trailer that took a darker approach for it. And actually tried to show, like, at least in my opinion, they showcased the Joker as maybe the villain of the movie, and well, it didn't work out that way. So I have a feeling a lot of reshoots were done, and it wouldn't surprise me that focus groups kind of shaped those reshoots.
Yeah, because that's the thing with executives. I mean, on the one hand, they're there to protect their investment, but on the other, it's very much a case of focus group-focused films rarely ever work. The only anomaly is basically Illumination Entertainment, but they're exactly that, an anomaly. They're an exception, not the rule. And with something like the DC Cinematic Universe, and this has been a problem that's been plaguing it even back in the days with the Chris Nolan films, is that Warner Brothers just doesn't have any faith in their own franchise. They don't have any faith that the characters and the stories will actually carry the movie, and that's the biggest problem with their DC Cinematic Universe, is that lack of faith.
Yeah. Alex, your thoughts on Suicide Squad after walking out of it? And you and me pretty much saw it the same day. So after a week, has your opinion been able to change now that you've been able to sit with it?
I really was hoping to actually see it again, but just no time, unfortunately. But yeah. I am a little bit mixed on the film, but ultimately I think I walked out enjoying it a lot more. Where Batman v Superman, I just felt really kind of exhausted and confused after 3 hours of just wondering what is going on. I actually found myself a lot more invested in Suicide Squad than I ever did with Batman v Superman. I can definitely, yes, I can tell where there are points where it feels like there have definitely been some last-minute edits and some last-minute reshootings and some more twerkings of the script, but compared to some of the other films where we've experienced that happen, like the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, it didn't feel nearly as overt or blunt. Maybe Romney just saw it a little through a slightly clearer lens than I did, but I didn't feel like it was as messy as Romney really felt it was personally. To me, I was able to follow the story fine, even though there was a whole bunch of characters. I liked essentially the tone and the pace of the film. Like, we could go fairly lighthearted, but we could also go pretty dark and kind of serious. I do have some problems with the movie. I don't know if you want me to go into that spiel now, or we're going to keep bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, hold off on that, because we're going to get into all of that. So, with that being, so we've pretty much gone into our opinions on it, and as you can kind of hear, like, we have one kind of negative on there, and we have two that are kind of on the fence. So, with that, let's actually get into the possible positives that were in the movie. It can't have, I don't know, Romney, it can't have all been bad, but I mean, I'm sure that there might have been at least a couple things that you would have liked out of it.
Well, there were some things that worked, but again, a lot of the biggest hindrances from the writing. I mean, the casting was decent. Like, the characters themselves kind of grew on me, but only a few of them. I mean, Deadshot, well, Will Smith being Will Smith, at least it's a far cry a lot better than what he did in After Earth. And so it's like, okay, it's Will Smith kind of in his element. I'm able to get into this character. And even the character of Colonel Rick Flag I could actually relate to, because, like, okay, I understand his struggle. He's a soldier trying to do his duty, and he didn't plan on having to work with a bunch of supervillains. And for a lesser extent, Katana, because, well, the sword, and just, I like that she was a more kind of an action-based character, just, like, said little, but had kind of her own demons, so to speak. So I liked the casting somewhat. It's just that a lot of the characters didn't really get much of a moment to really shine, and the humor they were given was more or less forced.
Yeah. If I was to say, like, a positive that I walked away with Suicide Squad, it would... Well, I've got a couple. So, first of all, I kind of liked that it wasn't Joker as the villain. And I'll get into my dislikes on that later, because it's more along the lines of what they did with Joker, that I'm kind of glad that we did this. So I did like the fact that the Enchantress was the villain picked for this movie. So I will admit I like that concept, at least on paper. I think it worked to be able to have a big villain like Enchantress to kind of dictate what the Suicide Squad is about. Like, I'm not saying anything bad against Joker. Joker's a viable threat in the Batman comics and in the DC universe, but the Suicide Squad are brought in for basically end of the world crap that the Justice League can't deal with at that given moment, because Amanda Waller doesn't give a crap about any of them and is willing to sacrifice them in order to save the day, kind of thing. So I do like the fact that we picked the Enchantress and we had kind of an end of the world situation to deal with, because that feels proper to what the Suicide Squad does. However, I'll get more into detail on that kind of with my dislikes. Another thing that I will admit I liked was some of the casting for it. I think meshed fairly well. In particular, I did like the character they got to play, El Diablo. I thought he did a good job with what was given to him. I don't know El Diablo from DC Comics, so I didn't know a whole lot about him. and so this was kind of like a walk-in fresh for me. And I will say Flag was a nice addition to it. I thought he did a good job considering what this was supposed to be about for him. And I will also say that there were a lot of really great shots, especially with some of the action shots, that it was enjoyable for me. Like when the action started happening, I was okay with it. I ran with it. It rolled well for me, and especially some of the comedy from Harley was good. I legitimately liked a lot of those jokes. I especially love that we got in one of the flashbacks with her, we got her in the classic Harley Quinn costume. I thought that was a nice homage, and I'm not going to criticize that. Aside from that, though, it's kind of hard to come up with positives because I had a lot of problems with the movie. Alex, what did you like about Suicide Squad?
All right, well, I'd say for what I liked about the movie, I thought I really did like all the casting. I mean, there were some actors who got to shine out more just because they had more to do, but I thought the casting was pretty good. It was pretty good. Even Will Smith, I think this is the first sort of action-y, non-drama role that Will Smith has been in for a while, at least one that he hasn't seemed like he's absolutely bored out of his mind to be doing, like he did with After Earth, or what was that movie where he was like kind of the bum superhero?
Hancock,
yeah. Where
he was the cynical superhero. He was the epitome of a hero.
So I really did like Will Smith as Deadshot. I don't know really a lot about Deadshot because I don't read the comics. I don't know if he ever showed up in the animated series. If he did, I don't remember him.
I'm not sure about the first one, but he has made a few appearances. It's just I know that when he was initially introduced, and an idea that I wish I would have seen in the DC Cinematic Universe is that he basically emerged in a time when Batman wasn't in operation. It was more or less like Batman, but used guns and wasn't afraid to kill. And like in the issue he was introduced, that was the whole idea. It's like, oh, he's like Batman, except he uses firearms, and he's basically willing to go that extra mile. But then it turns out, oh, he's trying to edge out Batman, which is why Batman tries to take him in. So
right. Well, my introduction to Deadshot, and fittingly enough, also Killer Croc, was really through the Batman Gotham Knight movie. That was where I really first saw these characters ever. And so seeing them now in sort of live action, where I may not get to see them anytime soon, depends on what the next Batman movie wants to go with, whether they go with Joker or they choose a different villain from the pool. We'll find out, I guess. But so it was good to kind of see these two characters that I don't have a lot of history with, like I do with Joker or Harley Quinn, or, well, pretty much I don't know any of the villains of Suicide Squad, in fairness, but if there's anyone I'm probably going to recognize, it's probably going to be Batman-centric villains. But so I thought the casting was pretty good. I liked the gal who played Harley. I really got invested with her. You know, I liked the guy who was Killer Croc, Will Smith as Deadshot, and I had no problem with the casting. I liked a lot of the soundtrack choices between the use of the songs that they chose. I felt the songs all really meshed together. They made a nice sort of poppy soundtrack, which is hard to do because pop soundtracks can easily date your movie or just drag down. So between that and the score by Stephen Price, so good soundtrack overall, a lot of good action sequences, I really thought, and really liked I did like elements of where they did the story, because I didn't know really what I was going into expecting this, and we'll get into that when we kind of get into more of our dislikes, but at first I kind of thought this was essentially like, okay, at first when I saw the trailers I was thinking the story was going to be kind of like, okay, the government naively and foolishly hires a bunch of rogues, and, well, big surprise, they get off the chains and they go crazy and trash the town. Not exactly where the story went, and I'm pleasantly surprised by that, because I thought that's where the story was going to go, so at least it subverted my expectations there. So I think that's where I'm going to leave it at for now.
Okay. I'm actually kind of glad you brought that up. Another like that I have was Ben Affleck Batman. I do like the fact that they're, aside from Batman v Superman, because they do step outside the character, but I did actually like the scene with him very conflicted about saving Harley, because at that point, like, he could have just let her die, but instead he was like, oh crap, I gotta save her so that she can face justice the proper way. So in some ways, I actually kind of wondered if maybe that was Ben wanting to interject more of how he envisions the DC cinematic universe.
I get the feeling that was the executives thinking, let's throw Batman into this so that way people can go, that way we can say he's in it, basically.
Yeah,
probably so.
And we'll get into that with the dislikes too. Let's just go ahead and get into it. So, lots of stuff to dislike about this movie, and I mean, people have seen it from the critics, from Rotten Tomatoes, from Metacritic, all over the place, and everybody's had everything to say about it. In fact, there was a petition to take down Rotten Tomatoes over all of this. So, yeah, there's a lot to dislike here. And I'm going to go ahead and go last. So, Alex, go ahead and take it, because I have a feeling you're going to have probably the least amount of dislikes.
Probably so. I think I enjoyed the movie more than you two did. So, for my dislikes, I really didn't... Joker just didn't need to be in this movie, and I don't know if this is because of the consistent recuts and reshoots they were forced to do. Maybe he had a bigger role to play that they had to really cut him down for time or whatever. I don't know, but if that's the case, then they should have just cut Joker altogether out of it and just save him for breaking out Harley at the end. That at least would have felt like, oh, they're setting something up here. That's kind of interesting, right? But the fact that they kept intertwining Joker several times throughout the movie, even though he didn't need to be there. Okay, 2 points that they could have just had the Joker. One is the Harley Quinn flashback, where they drop into the chemicals and this weird kind of ballet thing. That was a weird scene, but pretty enjoyable nonetheless, because that was interesting. I've never seen that before, something like that before, when it comes to Harley Quinn and Joker.
Just because it shows how insane both Joker and Harley are.
Yeah, so I mean, I like that scene. So I say they should have kept that scene and the scene where he breaks her out of prison. They didn't need this whole Joker subplot, because he just kind of... Because they keep forgetting about Joker, and then it's like, oh, we got this Joker plot we're trying to do. Maybe we should go check on that right now. I think I left the stove on somewhere. So I really didn't need the Joker in this movie, because he really didn't add much to the movie. As far as the story, as much as I praised it for not merely just a renegade bunch of villains getting off the leash and trashing the town, I wish they would have found something else, though, to do besides the Enchantress plot. Enchantress seems like an interesting villain. I was kind of intrigued by her from what I saw of her in the trailers. And I'm like, oh, I don't know this person. But the fact that they had to kind of go with this whole, well, okay, now she's angry and she wants to destroy the world because reasons, and she's got to build some machine and slowly comes together. It's like, oh my gosh, how many times have we already seen this in like 20 other superhero movies of the last decade?
So we actually just barely got a chat comment. Who owns RT? I'm not sure who you're talking about, TG. Are you talking about DC or one of the DC? Who owns Rotten Tomatoes? I think it is Warner Brothers, isn't it?
Yeah, Warner Brothers is the parent company that owns it.
Yeah.
Let's find out, actually.
Sorry, Alex. Go ahead and go on.
Okay, so I didn't really like the whole supervillain Enchantress. I'm not saying she couldn't have made an intriguing villain, but maybe that should have been down the line or something. Maybe Enchantress should have just been with the group for most of the time. I don't know, but the point is, it's just like they fell back on the old cliche, oh, I'm going to destroy the world, I'm an ancient god, roar, hear me roar. It's like, because Thor did this, and it's like Avengers did this.
But in the movie's defense, that's what the Suicide Squad do.
Yeah, but you're setting this up. It's like Romney said, we're trying to get set up here for this group, but we don't really know who they are, essentially, unless you're just a hardcore comic fan.
For the Suicide Squad to take care of, that would have helped.
It should have just been something I know Andre, the Black Nerd, suggested this. It should have been something slightly threatening, but small scale enough. Small scale, but kind of threatening in a way that you didn't have to fall back on every Marvel movie ever. Not every Marvel movie. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to harp on Marvel here, but just it's the cliche. This is something he also pointed out it's this giant cliche that, okay, ancient god awakens to destroy the world, sealed evil in a can. God knows we've seen that plenty of times. Hell, we've seen that in Sonic the Hedgehog games. So it's like, enough with the sealed evil in a can. We get it.
Well, then I hate to tell you this, but there's a lot of sealed evil in a can in the DC universe.
I'm not surprised. It's superheroes and it's comics.
That's kind of the issue, is that there's a lot of it there. It's not that I don't get kind of your viewpoint, and just to quickly clarify in the chat, I don't believe it was Warner Brothers who was trying to take down Rotten Tomatoes. I think it was a petition from fans, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it
was like a
was.
joke. It was a joke petition, really.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, because...
also, in case for people who are wondering, yes, Rotten Tomatoes is owned by Fandango Media, Warner, Time Entertainment. They have a 30% stake, and Comcast, NBC Universal has a 70% stake.
Yep.
So the more you know.
So at that point, Romney, why don't you go ahead and get into your dislikes, because I have a feeling mine is going to upset a few people.
Well, I'm going to try avoiding giving my whole review again, so I'll give more or less the highlights. One, the tone was all over the place. Like, they couldn't settle on whether they were trying to be a quirky comedy or a gritty, dark film like the previous Siderhelm productions. The humor felt really forced, and the structure, it felt like an incomplete story. It felt like they took a mini-series like Amazon's Attack and tried making that into a movie without having established everything else so that people can understand the story they're trying to tell.
I wouldn't even say incomplete. I'd say fragmented.
Yeah, and on top of that, in addition to trying to basically like, oh, we've got Easter eggs, we've got teasing things, basically, there's a lot that I didn't like about this film, so much so that I'm thinking, if I were in charge, I probably would have rewritten and reshot the whole thing. Because, one, I know you like the Batman Harley scene, but honestly, we didn't need to see the actual captures. You should have just had it mentioned in passing, cut those scenes out. I mean,
you technically did see the capture. All you had to do was see him pull her out of the car. That's all you needed to see.
Well, you didn't even need the whole flashback of like the Queen of Crime. Like, you didn't need any of that. The best example of the structure they should have taken was how they introduced Captain Boomerang. It was like, okay, he's robbing a store. He's trying to escape. There's the Flash. Done. They should have kept it to a very short, quick pace when introducing each of them, instead of bogging everything up, like, oh, look, here's Batman. Oh, look, here's Joker. Just keep it nice, short, and simple so we can actually get to the main story. Because that was one of the problems I had with it, is that, because the Captain Boomerang one worked, because, like, okay, it's nice, simple. He has a gimmick, he's robbing a place, Flash catches him, that's it. We don't need to dwell on anything else. And that was really the big problem, is that they were too focused on trying to basically over-explain everything, rather than just doing something simple like that. But that is an inherent problem with the way the story is structured itself, because what this film really needed was someone to act as the audience proxy, someone who would basically represent the audience that isn't familiar with these characters, who would basically learn about the characters and their backstories over time, rather than basically having a funnel strapped to our mouths and just all the exposition like shoveled in. Basically, I didn't want to have to look at a Wikipedia article before going into this movie, and that's pretty much what the first chunk of the movie is a giant Wikipedia article.
So really quick, while I'm going into my dislikes, Alex, do me a favor. We're gonna do this live here. Could you please check and see Ben Affleck's involvement with the film? Right. I know that he has his shots, but I want to know if he was actually part of the production staff, if enough of that DC reshuffle had happened before Suicide Squad was kind of finalized.
All right, let me take a look here.
Yeah.
Production.
Yeah. While I was looking to kind of add to my point, another thing that was kind of missing is that it bothered me how all buddy-buddy all the characters were by the very end, even though the events of the entire movie take place over the course of one day. Not even a whole day. Literally, they met each other the same day. Some of them were ready to kill one another, and yet by the end, they're suddenly all buddy-buddy with no rhyme or reason or anything that actually showed them actually becoming buddy-buddy. I mean,
whole comics where like years pass in those comics, I believe, and you still don't have everybody buddy-buddy with everybody. Like, you maybe have like one or two that are friends, but there are still others that don't give a crap about the other. That's kind of what is the lure of Suicide Squad.
Yeah, and honestly, what was missing, what I think they should have done, rather than skipping straight to the world-ending plot, they should have had them go on a first mission, like one that's on a smaller scale, so that way you actually see them trying to get organized in action, have the demonstration of the explosive collar without having to rush into we've got to save the world. Just have it, have an actual, a previous mission. Show them going to the field for the first time and having to get used to each other at first on a much smaller scale that the government can easily cover up, rather than jumping to the cataclysmic event that somehow got on no one else's radar.
Yeah, well, the problem with that concept is that even the viewer is looking at how many ways that whole Enchantress thing could have gone wrong. I literally kind of figured it out in my head. I'm like, Amanda, you can't even get to your leverage in time to be able to stop her from doing something you don't want.
Yeah, and honestly,
kind of
if they showed like a separate like prologue mission, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, like if you actually shown her being captured.
Or not even her being captured, if you just showed an initial inaugural mission that established that, oh, you think she has control over the Enchantress, and they're able to use her abilities to complete that first inaugural mission, and that would kind of set things up, thinking, okay, everything's under control, it's working. Then they go on this next mission, and then everything goes south. Then it would have actually been paced better, like, oh, she thought she had it under control, but the Enchantress managed to outthink Amanda Waller. That would have been at least a better way to actually play with the audience expectation a little bit.
In essence, kind of devalues Amanda Waller as a character, because in the DCU, Amanda Waller is very cold, very calculating, and almost never makes mistakes on that scale. And even I kind of looked in the movie and went, yeah, if this was the real Amanda Waller, she would not have put this many walls in front of her actually getting the job done. So with that being said, and I do like what TG said, so it's like one of them buddy cop movies. That's appropriate considering one of our cast members is in a buddy cop movie coming soon. So there you go. My thoughts are very simple on dislikes. First of all, I thought there were too many members, or they needed to rethink the members, because, frankly, I really do think that there were members in there that chewed the freaking scenery. They didn't need to be there. They did not suit a need. In fact, one of them got shoehorned in to fulfill that. Because I really do think that when somebody was filming this and they did the reshots, they went, oh crap, why is Croc here? Well, we need to have a scene where he's swimming. Oh, wait, we already have the military people going for the objective that he's swimming for. So I'm like, so I actually kind of sat there and went, why is Killer Croc here? And at that point, and actually that's going to be one of the things that we do later, is I actually want to bring up an interesting thought to it. But I thought that there were a few that weren't there for a legitimate purpose. Croc is one of them. I really didn't think Boomerang needed to be there because, well, he was just there to be the guy that wants to run away, really, is what happened there. And the occasional, we get to look inside his coat and see the unicorn, and laugh at that. Technically, I'm going to make an argument that Harley didn't need to be there because she was pretty much there as the comic relief. And here's the thing: a good 50% of the time, she wasn't the comic relief.
Nope.
She was just the person swinging the bat. So at that point, I didn't think she was worthwhile. I thought Adam Beach, as I think it was Grifter, was wasted, especially since he was only in the movie for a combined 5 to 10 minutes before he was gone. So at that point, why even include him? Do you know what I'm talking about, Romney?
I can't. I don't remember which one was Grifter. Are you talking
about like Grifter, or it was like Cliffhanger or something like that? I don't know the.
Oh, you mean Slipknot?
Yeah, Slipknot.
He didn't need to be there because he was killed. He was basically the example of the bombs actually working.
It was cannon fodder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Honestly, they should have brought in like a villain that no one would take seriously, who would try something stupid like trying to escape on his own, like Kite Man or something.
But at that point, that should have been Croc or something like that, like somebody that didn't care, like thought that he was all that in a bag of chips. And I get that Slipknot was supposed to be that, but it felt kind of honestly, wasted.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially since he only did that because he was coaxed by Captain Boomerang.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if they wanted to go a more extreme example, it would have been better if Captain Boomerang was the one who got his head blown off, because he was the one who vocalized his motivation to run.
I'll give you a better idea on what should happen. When they first came across the minions of the Enchantress, and they actually noticed that they were like zombies, that they were going to be unrelenting, you should have had that guy basically go, F this, and run off, and then either Flag or Waller push the button, kind of thing. And that would have been a good example. Plus, they would have been able to take out like a good couple of them in the process, and it would have made sense given Waller's and Flag's kind of motivations, because they don't care about these guys. They care about getting the objective done. So at that point, I felt like they were wasted. I will say wholeheartedly, I didn't agree with Will Smith as Deadshot when he was cast. I don't agree with him now. I honestly think people, and you can hate me for this opinion, Will Smith is an overestimated actor. He has good moments, but they don't come around that often. And him as Deadshot was, in my opinion, a perfect example of why he shouldn't have been Deadshot. Because in essence, at least as far as I'm concerned, they didn't even get the character half right, especially when they tried to bring the daughter into the mix. It's really sad when I actually have to say that the CW version of Deadshot is more accurate than the movie version of Deadshot.
Yeah, honestly,
and a lot of that I hold towards Will Smith's performance.
Yeah, honestly, I hate, like, one thing that I was worried, I'm just like, I hope they don't try to do Slade Wilson, because I don't know how they're going to handle a character like that. It's just, I mean, in Will's defense, at the very least, it's very much you can tell the people going into this thinking, okay, there's no way we can actually try to make this character like how people know him, so we'll just have Will Smith do his thing.
But the problem is that Will Smith wasn't motivated at all. Like, I can guarantee you his performance was getting a paycheck. It was paying off. It was making a mortgage payment. It wasn't that he was legitimately interested in this. Like, I could throw out a dozen different other roles or different roles that he was invested in and he wanted to be able to do well. I would dare say iRobot is one of them, where he actually, I feel, did the homework to be able to play this character right. I don't think he did it for Deadshot. I don't think he gave a crap.
I don't think really most of the cast even really cared. But again, that goes back into the whole lack of faith Warner Brother has, where they're just like, oh, well, we don't really have much faith in this property, so we're just going to do something completely different that doesn't follow anything established, and so they basically just told the...
Actually, you know what? In defense, the person who played Waller, I think she did a little bit of homework, but maybe didn't understand fully the character.
Well, it's because she's played Waller before. She was in Green Lantern, and she was also played Waller on the CW shows. And so it's not so much, oh, she did her homework for that movie. She's played the character before on multiple occasions.
They have a different Waller on the CW shows.
Huh. Well, I know that she's...
Like, Waller got a complete focus on Arrow, and it was a different person.
Well, I know that she's played Waller before, so I think she was at least in Green Lantern. I could be wrong, but I know she's played... Familiar. Yeah, thing is, I know she's played the character before, so it's very much a case of, okay, well, she was already familiar because she's played the role before.
Yeah.
Even though they more or less tried making Amanda Waller into the Nick Fury of the DC Cinematic Universe without understanding what Nick Fury's role in the Marvel Cinematic Universe actually is.
And also understanding that there is a difference between Nick Fury and Amanda Waller. Yes, it's a slight difference, but there's a difference between Amanda Waller and Nick Fury, and that has to be understood.
Well, I'd say that'd be a larger difference because they have completely different methodologies, whereas Nick Fury is very much someone who's not afraid to actually get his hands dirty and actually go into the fray if he absolutely has to. He just usually delegates, but if things go south, he's not afraid to actually put up his dukes, whereas Waller's a lot more like a tactician who's basically thinking, okay, I've got all these pieces in play, and I've basically got the eject button if I need to get out of here when things really go south. She doesn't strike me as someone who would actually leap into the fray if she needed to. She's very much someone who would basically have all of her bases covered. At least that was the impression I got from her character, especially when she would like shoot all the FBI people that were in the station after they were evacuating. She's someone who basically tries to tie up loose ends, but not someone who's going to actively engage.
Yeah, and just to answer a chat comment really quick, so I was fine with Harley being there because she's the draw to get people to see it, and this was her first movie. Yeah, she was made as the draw. I agree with you on that, but I guess the question that I would ask would be, should she have been the draw?
I say, why not? Why not?
I actually say no, she shouldn't have been, because at that point you're not getting the full-on character.
Well, the thing is, she could have worked as the draw if she was written better and if they didn't try to shoehorn in Joker. If Joker, like Alex said, if Joker was left out of the movie until the very end as a teaser, then it would have worked. Or if they tried jumping ahead a little bit, where it's the Harley that we're seeing in the New 52, where she's trying to get away from kind of the relationship he has with the Joker, or even have it kind of be in between, where she thinks she's getting cured, trying to get away from it, and you're not even sure because she's crazy, so is she faking, is she not? And then you basically have the teaser at the end where you see the Joker go in to bust her out. And that's kind of really what hurt it, is that they focus so much on explaining her origin and her relationship with the Joker that, well, she didn't really serve much purpose beyond just establishing who the Joker was.
I'm glad you segued into that, because here's my other problem. The Jared Leto Joker.
Yeah.
So, Kate, and this one is going to take some explaining. You got to realize, people, the most advertisement that has been done for Suicide Squad in these last few years has been the Jared Leto Joker. Okay? It's been Jared Leto posting pictures of himself on Twitter of him in the Joker outfit, or in the Joker attire. And he's been the one that's been pumping up this movie and saying, you need to see this because I did the best freaking Joker, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to say it. He wasn't.
No.
He was nowhere close. To be honest, I couldn't tell in some scenes if he was trying to be Heath Ledger, if he was trying to be Jack Nicholson, or if he was trying to be something all his own. And the fact that he couldn't make up his mind on that, I think overall hurt his performance and made it unbelievable. Which, in essence, for the Joker, you don't want. And here's the thing, too. I think the Joker was absolutely wasted in this film and didn't need to be there. Mm-hmm. Even the little Easter... That should have been the Easter egg, Romney, was him going to free Harley. Mm-hmm. Maybe have a couple of flashbacks here. Like the acid scene, I was fine with. Because you know what? That goes to Harley's backstory just as much as it does to the Joker. And I'm talking the whole initiation and him actually second guessing himself and jumping in the acid with. Okay, that's who it is. But the strip club scene, absolutely unnecessary. The whole subplot with Harley, or with him trying to break Harley out in the city, completely and utterly worthless. Because the bottom line is that this entire city was taken over, and all I was questioning was how on earth did he and his crew avoid getting zombified by Enchantress?
Yeah, and honestly,
and your answer of he's crazy is not adequate.
Didn't he like steal some sort of antidote from Wayne Tech Laboratories or something?
No,
it's never explained, like at all. But to add to that point, like
no, he stole a countermeasure for the bomb.
Oh, okay. I remember that scene. I couldn't remember what he stole. But
again,
that goes to show you how pointless these Joker scenes are.
Yeah, and kind of to add to that point, with this version of the Joker, I'm going to go out on a limb. I did not see the Joker. I just saw the violent psychopath that you usually see when the Joker's plans are falling apart. You don't see the manipulative mastermind who orchestrates these elaborate schemes for the purpose of either proving a point or just for, well, shits and giggles. It was just, it's just the violent psychopath who's willing to kill anybody for no good reason. And to me, that's not the Joker.
Here's the thing. With both, and here's the thing. I've seen enough of Nicholson's performance to be able to say that was there. I've seen Heath Ledger's performance. I can tell you that was there. Because he did get that concept. There were points where you could see the Joker's wheels turning. And him actually trying to figure out, this is what I can do to achieve this end. With the Jared Leto Joker, I saw none of that. All I saw was a crazy guy who was obsessed with getting his girlfriend back. And frankly, that belittles the Joker. That belittles Harley to an extent. Because I don't know about you guys, it made me question why Harley even fell for him. Because they didn't show enough of him of her falling for him.
Nor did we even see enough of the manipulation the Joker employed to actually get Harley to fall for him. Because that's the other key thing, is that Joker is a manipulative bastard. And that's the whole thing. He was playing upon the sympathies of Harley Quinn as a psychologist to slowly win her over. But nope. I mean, I even said in my review, we don't see their toxic relationship. We're just told that it exists, and that's it.
Exactly. That's pretty much the premise of this entire movie is that we were told that this happened, and that's all we had to go on. So, with that being said, the other thing that I also disliked was Batman. Okay? I'm not saying that his scenes were bad. I don't think Ben delivered a bad performance or anything like that. They're flashbacks. There's really not a whole lot to go off of. In fact, the Easter egg at the end with him and Amanda, I thought was spot on. I thought that's exactly how Bruce would interact with Amanda Waller. I thought that was fine. But frankly, my problem here was Batman got an entire movie to himself, well, with him and Superman and Wonder Woman. This would have been a great way to showcase, I don't know, the other characters that are coming in this Justice League movie we've heard so much about. I will admit, it actually irritated me that Batman got 2 flashbacks, and both of them were a good couple minutes long,
Mm-hmm.
and the Flash got less than a minute on screen.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, this would have been the time to get us excited about Cyborg, about Flash, about Aquaman. Granted, there were no Aquaman villains in here, but this would have been the time to get us excited about Flash. And they didn't. I mean, this was actually because people remember, I did not like the costume for future Flash for Batman v Superman. I did not like it. But this one, I did. I legitimately liked it. So at that point, and this is also going to go into my little game that we're going to play, which is I wanted to try and find ways that you could have done more flashbacks with Flash than with Batman. Because frankly, we got technically 3 Batman villains.
Mm-hmm.
4, technically, if you include Joker. Okay? We had Harley, we had Croc, Deadshot has been a Batman villain from time to time, and we've got Joker, Harley, Deadshot, and Croc. Okay? And so, frankly, you could have done so much more with these other characters to be able to advertise them. Heck, prep up the Wonder Woman movie and bring in one of her villains as part of the Suicide Squad. They pretty much all had villains that have joined the Suicide Squad in one way or form.
Mm-hmm.
So this would have been the way to be able to show them off. And so that's kind of one of my major problems with it. Again, I'm still 50-50 with it. I thought there were still some things that they did right, but there was a lot there that could have been improved on and felt like it had been reshot into the dust, that focus groups had pretty much owned this movie. It's kind of funny because I can't even believe I'm going to say this. If there was a movie that Zack Snyder should have directed in this DC Cinematic Universe, it was Suicide Squad. Because given the tone that we've seen from him, it would have worked. But strangely enough, he wasn't the guy directing this movie.
Thank God, I don't want to see Zack Snyder direct ever
Well,
again.
he technically directed a scene. I'm not sure which one, but he directed a scene of Suicide Squad. But that's it.
He was the
all he had
producer.
in
Wasn't it? No, he was the producer, so...
He directed a scene. That's it.
What's
He was the producer, but he also directed a scene of Suicide Squad. I don't know which one, though.
I'm gonna say,
Go look at it. Go do a Google
check.
search. It was on IGN. Zack Snyder did a scene of Suicide Squad, and it actually says which one it was. But so I'm actually going to go into the chat really quick just to see what you guys thought.
You're right. He filmed the Flash scene.
Oh, great! He filmed the thing that was like 45 seconds. Jiminy Christmas, man.
Okay, I find it kind of sad that he shot the only part that actually worked in introducing the villain that didn't take up like 2 minutes, and it's just.
Of course he did. So yeah, there you go. So really quick, just going into the chat. So can't wait for Cyborg in the Justice League movie. Yeah, actually, I can't wait for Cyborg either. I do like the take that they're doing with him. Cyborg looks good. I popped a bumper when I saw him. Suicide Squad, I thought on the Joker jumping. Suicide Squad, I thought, the Joker jumping off of an airplane. Well, the Joker would do that. We can't deny the Joker would do that. But only to get Batman. And that's the other thing, too. This movie was really just to add, as far as I'm concerned with the Joker and Harley plotline, it was to advertise the Batman movie.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when we had the whole, we have to introduce all of the characters and show all of the offenses that they've ever done, and include, in Harley's, murdered Robin. So now we know who killed Jason Todd.
Yeah. I mean, because I was actually talking to my older brother about this, and he said that the only way for a lot of Joker's actions to make sense would have been if the Jason Todd theory actually was true. But unless there's some weird, like, messed up madness that the writers are going to pull out of their hats, I don't see that really being the case. Although, if it was Jason Todd as the Joker and not Jack Napier as the Joker, a lot of the actions that we're complaining about would make sense, because it wouldn't be the actual Joker. It'd be someone trying to imitate the Joker to the best of his knowledge, but thus not having the same exact psychoses, which is why you have him second-guessing himself or obsessing over Harley. But I don't know if DC's actually going to go that route, unless they want to do some major damage control. Or
well, but again, all Joker and Harley were doing, at least with those flashbacks, was setting up a Batman movie.
Mm-hmm.
They were setting up what we were going to learn in Batman, which is pretty much what we thought we were going to learn. It was going to be a prequel showing us the death of Jason Todd and showing us the darkening of Batman kind of thing. We all thought that was going to happen. Let's see. I think DCWB is trying to play catch-up with Marvel with them rushing things in their movies. Yes, they absolutely are. They are rushing the whole process.
Again, this whole franchise thing is part of the big pissing contest between Warner Brothers and Disney. Not just with the superhero movies. Warner Brothers has been trying to match everything Disney's been doing tit for tat. I mean, fairy tale movies with like their Peter Pan and their Jungle Book movies. And then they're trying to get their own franchises off the ground by resurrecting Harry Potter and trying to get these DC movies off the ground. This has just been part of a long, never-ending boxing match these two companies have been in.
Quick, Romney, join me. Anything you can do, I can do better.
I can do anything better than you.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can, because I'm Batman.
Just a Batman, exactly. Because I'm sporting a raging bat boner. So at that point, here's the little game that I actually want to play here, which is, again, I had problems with certain cast members being here, because I have nothing against Killer Croc. I think he was underutilized in this film. Because you could have brought in another viable, worthwhile Suicide Squad member and had a better impact because of it. So one of the ones that I'm actually going to bring up is I believe that we should have replaced Killer Croc with Captain Cold. And the reason I think Captain Cold is because, again, Captain Cold is not only a longtime veteran of the Suicide Squad, but he's also a Flash villain. Which means we would have got, instead of getting 2 scenes of Batman, we maybe have gotten 2 scenes of the Flash actually apprehending both Boomerang and Captain Cold and bringing them in. Granted, it would have been really awkward to have both Captain Cold and Captain Boomerang in this movie. Okay? But we'll get there when we get there. With Will Smith, do you have a beef with Will Smith? Do I have a beef with Will Smith? Yes, I do, because I think he's an overestimated actor. Sorry, he is. He's not the greatest thing since sliced bread, like the media makes him out to be. He really isn't. I love the fact that he blamed the director on After Earth, and I've since seen tidbits of After Earth, and I can tell you it was Will. That was the problem with After Earth.
No, it's a Shyamalan movie, Adam.
It's a Shyamalan movie.
No,
Everybody
there's both problems there. There really is.
Everyone involved in After Earth carries some of the blame. There's no, it's all one or the other. Everyone who signed on to that
I'm saying Will blame director. That he blamed everybody but himself. And frankly, he shares some of that. He blamed his son.
I kind of doubt that.
Go look it up.
I could see him maybe just blaming Shyamalan,
but
I
he's
really
the Fresh
doubt
Prince of Bel-Air. You're officially talking to the one person that doesn't mean anything.
I really doubt he blamed his own son for it.
Go look it up. So anyway, that's at least my proposal. I think that you could have replaced Croc with Captain Cold. Alex and Romney, do you agree or disagree with this assessment?
Well, unfortunately, I don't know anything about anything. Yeah, I don't know anything about anything. I don't know anything about Suicide Squad beyond what I've just seen in this movie, and I don't know anything about most of the DCU characters and villains and whatnot. It's like really anything outside of Batman.
Well, what I'm asking is, could Croc have been replaced?
Maybe, maybe not. I don't have a problem with Killer Croc. That's the problem. It's just could he have had a little more to do? Sure. I think he could have cut Slipknot just because, again, he had no purpose other than, oh, to get killed. It's like, oh, we got to show shit gets real, and I don't know how you could have shown that otherwise, but you could have probably cut out Slipknot, and again, you probably could have cut out Enchantress just because you didn't.
Yeah, they could have found a better, more. I want to say like a more terroristic villain, because that's in a lot of cases that's another thing that they deal with. This would have been one of those things where it was more of a human problem, not a meta-human problem that they should have dealt with. Or again, if it was the Joker holding Gotham ransom, that would have made a little bit more sense.
Yeah,
for a first mission for the Suicide Squad.
Come on, I mean when Batman 1989 is more creative than your 2016 movie with how you handle a serious, scary event, then you've got problems. Come on. All you really need is like Joker or any villain really just doing something that is going to kill and hurt a lot of people.
Well, alternately, and hear me out, this would go with kind of the idea if they had like an inaugural mission before the main cataclysmic event. Say that you didn't have Killer Croc as part of the squad at first. You had that be the villain that they had to take down on their inaugural mission. You see them trying to work together, and they bring Croc in because that would be their inaugural test mission to see if the unit can actually work together on a smaller scale villain like Killer Croc. And so that would even tie into the, it wasn't just captured already. It's like, okay, that's their first mission. You see them try to work together, even kind of pay a little homage to something like the Teen Titans cartoon with someone like Enchantress and how she would use her abilities, and basically give people that false sense of, they actually come together as a team by the end by bringing down Killer Croc, and then by giving Killer Croc more to do. Because like, okay, we brought in Killer Croc, let's bring him, and then it's like, Enchantress has gone rogue and is gonna go weird. We need to fill in the missing gap. I guess Croc's the only one we got. Or it can be, it went rogue while we were trying to transport Croc back. He's all we've got at this point. We can't bring in anybody else. And then it would give a better idea of, okay, that's why he's there, rather than having him be just part of the squad and only saying like 3 lines. It would be a case of, okay, they caught him on the inaugural mission, things went south, and so he was pretty much all they had with them because, they're on their own.
I'm fine with that. Or like having Croc working with, I don't know, Penguin. Penguin's the first one that comes to my mind because again, he's an arms dealer. He had his own like private army. You could have done something like that and maybe captured both of them, and gotten something out of it.
Yeah, or alternately, another thing that I think they should have either maybe just gone with more villains, not just from Batman and Flash, but also just like try to get villains from each of the major Justice League members, just so that you actually round things out.
The other thing that came to my mind, and maybe I'm pushing too far, Ronnie. Would this have been a great point to push like some of the more controversial nations in the DCU? Like I actually thought about like doing a saving hostages from the nation of Kurak or something like that, or even like saving Katana from the League of Shadows, or something to that extent, like introducing more, fleshing out the DC cinematic universe even more.
Honestly, in logic of how the Suicide Squad works, I don't think they send them in to save hostages because, a hostage rescue isn't necessarily a suicide mission because your goal is to basically save lives and get out of there. But the idea of like League of Shadows, something like that, could work. I definitely think they should have brought something a little less cataclysmic. So maybe what if instead of Enchantress being the villain, you could have brought in someone like Ra's al Ghul or Gorilla Grodd, or even some of the lesser-known villains that don't get a lot of time in the limelight. That
Gorilla Grodd as the villain for this movie would have been so great.
Yeah, like Gorilla Grodd, Solomon Grundy, basically like lesser-known villains that don't get nearly as much attention, which would make sense because it would keep it on a much smaller scale.
I'm sorry, Adam, you just kind of went into a stoner voice for a moment there.
Well, no, I'm just like thinking, think of all of the Harley jokes you could have gotten out of the fact that the main villain was a super smart gorilla.
Would have been interesting, yeah.
That would have been better. You would have gotten so many jokes out of Harley on that one. And no, instead we dealt. I'm not saying Enchantress was bad because I still like the whole concept of end of the world, but I'm agreeing with Romney. That seems like a sequel movie to do, not a first one. And the first one may have been like Gorilla Grodd in the shadows, like not even his henchman knew who he was, kind of thing. And that still would have been better as far as I'm concerned. Oh, and somebody's got the Solomon Grundy rhyme. Solomon Grundy, born on a Monday, christened on Tuesday, married on Wednesday.
What?
Solomon Grundy spell bad. So, at that point, yeah, I think there's a lot of potential that could have been done here. And let's actually just go on into this. Enchantress as the villain, yeah, it just... And actually, you want to know what I think made it worse? Was... First of all, she looked like Maleficent with less clothes on.
Honestly, I liked the initial design because it like worked with the whole it's like a voodoo sort of witch thing. But the outfit she was given during the whole cataclysmic thing, I'm just thinking, somebody was watching Frozen.
Yeah. The empowered version was just like, wow, somebody was watching a Disney movie when they CG'd that.
Yeah, I really didn't like that. I guess it was the character Moon who kind of like took on the body of the power of Enchantress. I really just would have rather they kept what we saw with Enchantress, right? The kind of witch girl looking thing. You know.
Just got this in the chat. Here's what Drac is saying. It's bad and it's not the end of the world as we know it, and he feels fine. Yes, that's exactly how it goes. No, but to add on to that with you, Alex, is that another thing that detracted from it was the brother.
Mm-hmm.
The brother felt more powerful than the Enchantress in some scenes. Because, well, his answer to everything was summon up Cthulhu tentacles to destroy everything. So at that point, it's like, even your henchman is demeaning you right now.
Well, it's especially weird given that the movie goes on to explain, her brother's an incubi that's kept in a jar. And I'm thinking, he's an incubi, and he uses Cthulhu tentacles. How did this film not end up as an R-rated film?
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, how on earth did we not just end up with some kind of... I'm sure there's a porn parody somewhere now, but...
Give it time.
So, I mean, that's one of the issues that we had with this film. It was frustrating to see a potentially good villain go really weird in near the end of it. And so... I don't know what else to say aside from that. Even like the lead up, I didn't feel that motivated in rescuing Moon either. Like to be perfectly honest, because I don't think she was shown enough. Enchantress was shown more than she was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So at that point, I didn't get. I got Flag's motivation, but I didn't get it from a film perspective. It felt like they knew each other for maybe 5 minutes, and even Waller pointed it out. The only reason that he's motivated is because I told Moon to seduce him, kind of thing. It's like, okay, fine, whatever. Let's actually go into. I think we've pretty much pounded Joker. Because I think we're all pretty much on that same page that the Joker felt a little unnecessary for this film.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious. We've been hammering on a couple of these metahumans, but we haven't really talked about, in particular, Diablo. And he was pretty much the only one that we got, aside from the Harley flashbacks, that we got a legit backstory on. How did we feel about that? Because I actually felt like up until the latter end of the movie, he was really well done. In fact, I like the fact that they took out the bar joke for him, where he was just drinking. Like he was, you know, the joke I'm talking about, water.
Yeah.
That's a good decision for you, honey. I like the fact they took that out, and they kept him a somber character. You guys' thoughts on El Diablo?
Yeah, I definitely liked what they did with the character. I'm just thinking, why couldn't he have been in a better movie? Because he actually had a good backstory, good motivation, and I mean, even as a villain, his character could have worked. Because it's just, again, it's like a good character that actually had good motivation and decent writing, wasted. That's pretty much the best way to describe it. A good character wasted on this movie.
Yeah, I have to agree on that one. I mean, I felt the backstory was probably one of the better moments of the film because it actually showed that maybe some of these villains, especially in the Suicide Squad, would be penitent and would actually want to change their lives. They even tried to do that with Deadshot, which is legit. Like, he actually did want to turn at one point and be a good guy so that he could help out his daughter. I don't feel it was implemented well in this movie with Deadshot, but El Diablo's was. What about you, Alex?
Oh, I mean, I guess I'm a little torn on El Diablo. He was a pretty interesting character, you know, because he was very soft spoken. He didn't do a lot, but at least it felt like he had the reason for not doing a lot. It's sort of like he's the dog on the leash, and you know, when you get to see him, it's all that more rewarding, at least. Although the backstory maybe a little bit forced. I'm kind of split on it because it's kind of the cliche backstory, but it wasn't terrible. It wasn't terrible execution. I did really kind of like the idea of the character, and I liked that he became the whole big kind of demon at the end. That was pretty interesting too. So I guess I'm a little 50-50.
I'll be honest with you, that's where my thing ended. The big CG demon felt weird, mainly because I don't know the character, so at that point I don't know if this is something that he can actually do, but it felt like that ability was tacked on so that they'd have somebody to fight against the brother.
Yeah. Again, all the more reason why I feel he was wasted on this movie, because then the idea, even as like a main character anti-hero, you could have it be where maybe he's hearing this voice that's constantly telling him to use this power, and that's why he's avoiding using it, is because, well, it caused him to kill his family. Like, having some sort of build-up in that regard. I mean, it could have been something as simple where, like, as all the fighting is going on, you could see, like, his fist clench a little bit where he keeps tended, but he keeps having to stop himself. Like, maybe you show, like, minor sparks where he's like, oh, it's going up, but he keeps consciously stopping himself until the very end when... And I even kind of like the fact that he's the one who kind of snapped out of the trance, although the lines of dialogue are kind of dumb, where it felt like, oh, Enchantress pushed a button she shouldn't have pushed. It's like, oh, I can give you everything you want. And it's just like, this isn't real. I kind of almost wish there was a little more anger, because that's like, oh, she hit a sore spot by saying, oh, I can give you your family back. It's like, no,
with Diablo, she hit a major sore spot as far as I'm concerned, and he should have had a worse reaction to it. I actually would dare say I think Deadshot, to some extent, should have had a bad or a worse reaction to it, because it was basically teasing him with what he could have had, and he could have killed the Bat that night. But in essence, he should have felt a little bit more bad about it because he would have lost his daughter's respect, because she was still shown in that cutscene.
We also didn't really get anything for Katana. We know, especially during that scene, because at that point it was previously established.
Maybe one interaction with her and the sword.
Yeah, I mean, it was established that she lost her husband, and his soul was supposed to be encased in that sword, and that's why she's fighting. But we didn't get anything during that moment where Enchantress is sort of giving them all the illusions in their head. That I thought was pretty disappointing, because Katana was pretty interesting. I really did want to see a lot more of her throughout the movie. But
yeah, when they had Flag explain her backstory, I wanted to be able to see, because this is again another DC guys. The DC universe is huge. I don't know everybody. This is another character that I actually wanted to know more about, and it actually irritated me that when she's talking to the sword, you can see like a mist coming off of it, but we never saw that mist coming off whenever she unsheathed the sword for combat. And that would have been a cool thing to actually see. Like when she killed something, we actually saw its soul being merged into the blade, kind of thing. And I don't know why they didn't do that. So that was kind of a disappointment. Another thing that I actually kind of want to get into is kind of going back to the Jared Leto Joker, but in a different way. So when this movie came out and the reviews came out, I think it was one of the first responses was Jared Leto, and him saying that he was disappointed because a lot of the scenes that he had filmed were not in the film. So that already kind of teases that we're probably going to get an ultimate cut of Suicide Squad. But the way that he was talking about it is that there was probably a good 30 to 40 minutes of his performance that was left out of the movie. And so this is going to be kind of a two-pronged question for people. Should that have been taken out, and would it have made a difference in this film to have that in there? And I'm going to go ahead and start up with Romney, because obviously Romney is a little bit more behind the technical process of it. Would having more Jared Leto in this, like all of his legitimate performance in here, have helped the movie in your opinion, or would it not have mattered?
I don't think it really would have mattered. Like, given the film that I saw, I mean, I would want to see the original cut David Ayer had, to see maybe if the structure was a little bit different, kind of see what the intended idea was, and maybe it would have worked better in that case. But to the movie as is, I don't think it would really help any.
Yeah, I hate to say it, I'm kind of there too. I think it actually was a good idea to cut him down to the bare minimum that he was in the movie, because again, he didn't feel like an essential element, and that I think would have detracted, because again, it would have made people question, like, why is the Joker here? Because he's not the main villain of it, and he really should be the main villain. In fact, it felt wrong for Enchantress to take the spotlight away from the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
Alex, do you think that the extra 30 to 40 minutes of Jared Leto footage would have helped this, or would it not have mattered?
I think I'm on the same boat with Romney. It's sort of like I would have to watch Leto's initial director's cut to see if Joker actually brings a little more to the movie with his scenes or not. As the movie stands right now, as the theatrical cut, I'd say no. I'd say as far as this theatrical cut goes, they should have just dumped all of the Joker scenes, which I feel bad for Leto, because what I've read, it sounds like Leto really got invested, really got into character, much like Heath Ledger did way back on The Dark Knight, and Leto did try his best to emulate this character to his ideas, not just copy what was done before. But the problem is, because of what little we did get, it did just kind of come off as he's copying Heath Ledger again, because we're still not that far away from the time of The Dark Knight and Ledger's death. I know it's been quite a bit of years, but it hasn't been that long when you think about it in movie time, that it's really hard to kind of distance yourself just enough from that role. I think we need a little more time for that dust to settle, because, I mean, that was, obviously Ledger was good. That was a great performance he gave, but a lot of the hype was also propelled by his unfortunate early death.
I think the other problem there too is that, look, I love the Joker just as much as anybody, but when you look at the films, the Joker is kind of oversaturated. He has been done in the Michael Keaton film. He's been done in the Dark Knight trilogy. He was actually a villain in the Adam West movie. Joker's been done, and it's one of those things where I would have liked to have seen another. Granted, I love the Heath Ledger performance, but in this case, it might have been better to not go with the Joker, because then at that point, it felt more along the lines of you were pandering to the Batman fans. You wanted to get the Batman fans in the seats, and frankly, Harley was in the movie. You didn't need that. And in essence, like, again, I think that you could have cut even more from this with the Joker. The strip club scene, the driving. You could have cut a good couple of minutes out of that driving section. All we needed to see was the car going into the water and Batman saving it. You know, that's all we really needed. And I think having as much as we did have with the Joker hurt the movie and hurt the performance. Mm-hmm. I even feel like it hurt Harley's backstory, just because there was more emphasis on the Joker in her backstory than there was on her. Mm-hmm. So at that point, kind of our final assessments for Suicide Squad. Do we feel that this was better or worse than Batman v Superman? And does this make us more excited for the later DC Cinematic Universe movies, or are we now just not interested?
I'd say definitely better than Batman v Superman. Excited? I don't want to say I'm excited. I'm not going to get too hyped up until we actually get to see Wonder Woman and Justice League for ourselves and see how that all turns out. As far as this goes, like I said, it's a step up. It's not definitely not perfect, and it's not the movie I think we all were hoping for, but it's a step up, and I think having
from what we've learned from Aldo, I mean, even the ultimate cut of Batman v Superman is definitely not what we wanted.
Probably not. So it's a step above. It's a step at least a little better. Again, this is sort of another movie where at least I feel more motivated to run out and see the director's cut as opposed to Batman v Superman, where it's like, great, I'm just going to have half an hour more of boredom. This I'm actually curious to see just how much has changed with as much editing down as they did to get it ready for theatrical release. So as far as the future goes, let's see how Wonder Woman and Justice League turn out. I don't think this really warrants the poor score it deserves. I'm not saying it's A quality, but goodness, it's like along the lines of like Green Lantern or other really poorly made films.
No, you know what? I would call Green Lantern better than this. I really would.
Yeah, I wouldn't. But it certainly doesn't go along with the scores that it's been getting. I think it's a
what is its score right now? It's been a while since I checked that. So
on IMDb it's like a 6.9. Let's see what it's on Rotten Tomatoes now.
I think it was like a 7.5 with IGN, and a couple of other reviewing outlets put it at 7 or 7.5.
27% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think that's way too low. I'd say this is a C grade movie. This is a C quality movie for me. So for me, I give it a solid C+. Could have been a lot better, but it certainly could have been a whole lot worse. I don't want to, and I don't care that Zack Snyder's not directing it. I'm glad he wasn't as involved beyond executive producing.
So Romney, you've already given this a rating on yours. I believe it was a 2.5 out of 5, wasn't it? It was like right in the middle there. So you're pretty much kind of in the same boat.
Well, kind of. Below average. I wouldn't say it's any better than Batman v Superman because it just has a lot of the same problems as Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
And really, like, even compared to some of the other DC movies, even the good ones, it's just... Yeah, I kind of hold it to the same regard as Batman v Superman, where it's a mess, where it's not sure what type of film it wants to be, and it all goes back to that lack of faith Warner Brothers has in the characters, in the stories, just this lack of faith they have in the potential of a DC cinematic universe. They don't want to actually try to have the characters and the stories carry the movie. They're looking for a gimmick. They're looking for a quick cash grab. They're basically chasing money rather than trying to make good films.
Yep. So where I'm at, I wouldn't even go with a C film. I'd probably go D plus C minus, honestly, with my assessment of it. I think it had some good intentions on paper, but they were poorly implemented. And so, and on top of that, the other thing too is that I think I've even said it before when we heard that Suicide Squad was being made, is that if they were going to set up a DC cinematic universe, Suicide Squad should not have been in the first wave. It probably should have been in the second one, because that's so loose reference that I really do think that they should have spent their first wave hyping the Justice League, kind of like Marvel did with their first wave, which this was more along the lines of, and I kind of agree with people, this was DC's attempt to do Guardians of the Galaxy. It failed horribly at it, and therefore feels like this should have been done like 2 waves later, and with a different director, probably even Zack as the director.
No more Zack Snyder.
That's the only one where his tone would work.
No, it wouldn't.
Not even then. Not even then.
I definitely don't agree with Romney about the tone being all over the place and not having a clue. I liked that this was kind of both silly but serious, kind of dark. It's kind of a dark, along the lines of a dark comedy. Snyder just would have made this 3 hours of. It would have been a 3. That's the problem I had with Batman v Superman. It was a 3-hour bore fest of just lawn dreariness. This at least had some levity to it.
I would say this, dude. You're on your own. The tone was all over the freaking place. And it was very evident where there was reshoots. Because where certain scenes might have had a lighter tone to them or a darker tone, they didn't have it anymore. I'm sorry, I don't agree. I really do think
there were scenes that
to do what the focus groups wanted.
I know that the director's vision was a little more somber and darker, but I'm really kind of glad that they went with a little more interjected of just a little more levity here, because we don't need 3 hours of dreariness already.
Was there enough? Okay,
There's
sorry.
enough
No, there
dreariness
wasn't
in
enough
this
levity
world,
here, Alex, and you're not going to get me to agree on this matter. There was not enough levity to be able to justify this. This was supposed to be there, and I'm sorry, but it is
It's
their
not
answer
a
to
comedy,
Guardians.
but at the same
And
time,
Guardians
it's
had
not
more
a
levity in
comedy.
it than this movie
It's
ever
not
even
a
attempted
comedy
to
at
do.
the same time. It's not a comedy, and I'm glad it didn't lose itself in too many jokes, but it didn't lose itself into,
It did lose
we're
itself in
serious,
the-
damn it. Take us seriously, damn it. We can be serious too.
No, you know what? No, it did take itself seriously in
It
the jokes.
did.
There were a couple points where they left a punchline for like 2 minutes in the air and did nothing with it. That bar scene, perfect example of it.
The bar scene was a nice bonding moment.
But
And
it didn't.
That came
this is
out of
not a
nowhere,
group-
though. That's the thing. It made no sense. Why would Katana go in the bar with them? It made no
Yeah.
sense whatsoever.
because
This is
Katana's just like,
that's the
fuck
problem.
this.
Is that
That's
this
why.
isn't a group that bonds. This is a group that hates each other inside and out.
But
So
you're
it
talking about the
felt out of
comics.
place.
We're not worried about the comics. We're worried about the movie here.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. I'm talking about with the movie, because the thing is, the tone is all over the place because there's no consistency to it, and
Yeah.
as a result, there's no logic to really the actions the characters take. I mean, like again, basically, we're not given enough time to actually see them bond to explain why they're buddy by the very end. I mean,
No, but by this movie's explanation, it takes a zombie invasion to take the worst of enemies and make them the best of friends.
because an idea like that could work if there was if it was actually structured properly. I mean, the idea of
It could.
the worst of the worst.
Supervillains.
Well, it could work with supervillains if the story actually took its time and actually showing the actual bond growing over in the face of this impending crisis. But the whole events of the movie in real time are basically the equivalent of 20, 30 minutes, an hour at the most in real time in this universe, because they all met that same day. They didn't get nearly enough time to get used to each other as a team, and so it makes no sense that they're all buddy by the time they're fighting the Enchantress.
Fair enough, the movie could have been longer, but then that's the problem with Warner Brothers, unfortunately, is the movie needed to be a little bit longer here. Here's a movie that needed to be longer. Batman v Superman needed to be shorter. This needed to be longer.
It's not even a matter of length. It's more they needed
I don't
to
even
take some
agree.
of the,
I think it all if longer in the sense that Jared Leto needed to be more in it.
Jared,
no.
Maybe
not
not.
even-
We'll have to see.
Yeah,
But
it's not even a matter of length. They needed to cut out the stuff that didn't need to be there, like all the front-loaded exposition, all the extra Easter eggs and teasings to Justice League. That stuff could have been. They basically need to cut out the fluff, focus on the actual parts of the story that are important.
It's Batman v Superman right now with Draken Shadow.
Jesus.
Does that mean that we're coming together on the word Martha?
Martha.
Martha!
Why did you say that name? It's not like
So-
it's a very common name or anything.
And alright.
Okay.
This completely erases all hatred.
Jesus.
No, so
Ah.
here's the best way that I can describe how much that bar scene doesn't fit in here. If I was given a chance to watch the bar scene from Suicide Squad, or watch the clip show episode from Batman to the Animated Series of all of the Batman villains getting together and playing poker, I'd watch that in a heartbeat.
I'd watch the
Because
bar
at least
scene.
that
'Cause
fit
clip-
together.
Clip shows are the laziest bullshit form of entertainment.
But I would
there is,
watch
so-
it. Because
Honest-
that actually made sense compared to this.
Honestly, if the bar scene was a short film in and of itself, I would watch it, because then you would actually just have the beats within the bar scene. That would be something interesting on its own. But in the context of the movie as a whole, it just doesn't work, because you can tell there were a lot of missing pieces, and it just, again, the edit for it just didn't work. It felt kind of sloppy, and that's just really my big problem with it, is that you can tell there's a lot of the edits that were made, a lot of things that were cut out that probably would have made the scene go down a little bit easier, but, again, the focus groups had their way with it in the back alley.
Yeah. So I like this. Shout out, do you like to bleed? You will.
Do you bleed? You will.
So another interesting comment that did get brought up that I think we've been pretty much hammering for this entire time, but we're going to bring it up again, which is I think the ultimate flaw of Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, Man of Steel, all of that. I think WB and DC need to do better in making their brand looking good and take time than rushing it. And that's absolutely true. You need to. Marvel took their time. They didn't care what Warner Brothers was doing at that time. And around that time, it was the Dark Knight trilogy. Okay? So, in essence, you could say Warner Brothers owned the superhero kind of market because Disney was building up to it. They had just released Iron Man. They had just released The Incredible Hulk by the time The Dark Knight came out. So, at that point, I really do think that this movie is absolutely rushed, and it's rushed to make Avengers-type money. And again, I don't think Suicide Squad should have been in the first wave. It really should have been, we're establishing the Justice League, and therefore we needed to have a Superman movie, we needed to have a Batman movie, we needed to have a Wonder Woman movie. You can have Batman v Superman, I don't care. You need to have a Flash movie, an Aquaman movie, and all of that coming out before the first Justice League movie.
Can you remind me? Can you remind me? Besides Green Lantern and Batman, obviously, what other DC movies we've had before? I seriously can't remember any other of the DC lineup before.
Well, are you meaning before or after
when the Marvel Cinematic Universe started up?
I just mean of the last several years, along the lines of the Marvel Cinematic Universe time of running here. Just what have we had in terms of DC movies besides Green Lantern and Batman? Because I seriously am drawing a blank. I can't think of anything.
That's pretty much it. It's been the Green Lantern. You had Dark Knight Rises. You had them trying to set up their universe with Green Lantern. That failed. So after Dark Knight Rises, they tried bringing out Man of Steel. And although it was divisive, it at least got the job done in getting people to actually go into the movie and pay for it. So it told them, okay, it's divisive. We need to work on that. But it made money. And then the problems began when there was like, oh, Man of Steel 2 coming out the following year. Then everyone's just like, nope. Then you had the regime changes with the CEOs changing. And basically Warner Brothers, the whole starting of the DC Cinematic Universe started at the worst possible time because you had a change in CEO, change in writers, you had directors leaving the project, coming on, writers leaving and coming on. Really, it's been a problem. The problem is that they tried doing this before they even got their house in order.
And I completely agree on that. I want to say Green Lantern, was that when the shuffle started, or was it before that? Because it wasn't Dark Knight Trilogy that did it.
It was before the shuffle. Basically, you had Green Lantern and Dark Knight Rises coming out close enough to each other, and then that was when they were trying to get Man of Steel off the ground. They wanted Christopher Nolan on the project. He didn't want to direct. He said he'd agreed to stay on as producer, and so they brought in Zack Snyder, and they had Goyer writing the script. And basically, even at the red carpet stuff, Chris Nolan was trying to avoid any and all questions. He wanted to get as far away from anything related to DC as quickly as possible, so he didn't answer any interviews. He basically avoided discussing the film at all because he was just producer. And he's like, hey, I have nothing to do with this. I just fronted the money. That's it. I'm out. And then it was...
I think the problem that they had there was... I think the reshuffling did it also, but when we actually started to see that the Marvel Cinematic Universe was starting to take momentum, and it was starting to work out because they had literally planned out, we're going to do 5 to 6 movies before we even do the first Avengers kind of thing. And then the Avengers blew up. Like, the Avengers did well that I think anybody expected it would. And that started the whole train going. That's because I've said it numerous times that the reason Zack was able to pitch Man of Steel and be able to be the director, at least for the most part, on all of these movies was because he looked at Warner Brothers and said, I will get you Avengers money. I will get you Avengers dollar signs. He has not been able to make good on that promise, but he is promising that. And Warner Brothers looked at that and went, oh, we can compete with Disney.
Yeah,
more specifically, cash in on the superhero boom.
Yeah, and more specifically, it was Suji Hara, because that was when Suji Hara took over as the CEO of Warner Brothers, where basically, like, Nolan was getting away from the project. Yeah, I know he worked on the story for Superman, but once the movie was out,
yes,
he was trying to get
Snyder
as far...
was working also on the Superman story. Yes, Nolan was part of it, but I think they've gone out and admitted that Nolan was not as much of a part as people thought he was.
Yeah, and it was clear he wanted out. He didn't even want to make Dark Knight Rises, but they strung-armed him into it because they funded Inception. That was literally the whole thing, like, oh, well, we'll fund Inception, but you've got to make a third movie. That was literally the caveat. But as soon as Man of Steel was out, he wanted to get as far away as possible, which he did. Not to mention that one of the major executives who brought Nolan in, who brought Affleck in, was forced out of the company by Tsujihara, literally giving him the silent treatment to the point that he quit. And so that was another break on top of the pile. And so really, it's been a mess from the start, where you had Tsujihara coming into a very chaotic time, trying to rush in all these franchises, not just DC. And so really, Warner Brothers as a studio it's a bit of a shit show right now. There's no other way to say it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I really agree with this concept. We need DC. You really need to take a step back. I get, look, Wonder Woman and Justice League right now are looking very good. They have potential. But with those, and we'll actually, because I have a feeling we're going to get to a few stories tonight. But with that, we actually need to take a step back and realize, okay, are we trying to rush towards that big cash-in, or are we actually trying to tell a good story? Because here's the thing. DC versus Marvel, DC has the potential to win this war every time. DC's been doing it for many, many years compared to Marvel. They have lots more backstory to go with, lots more great moments to be able to show. But in order to do that, you have to be able to do the build-up that DC has been doing for so long. And in essence, what Warner Brothers and DC is doing is hurting the process because they're speeding things up way too fast.
Yeah.
You know, Angry Joe made perfect points in the Nostalgia Critic video. The reason Death of Superman didn't work is because we had literally had hundreds of issues backing the Death of Superman. You had 2 movies with him. You had essentially had 3.5 hours with the guy. You weren't invested with the character.
Nope.
And so you shouldn't have done something to that extent. You shouldn't have done Doomsday. I still, to this day, believe they should not have done Doomsday. They should have built like a legit Lex Luthor plot, not the one that they built.
Yeah, honestly, why do I get the feeling that the Justice League movie we're going to end up getting is just going to be Crisis of Infinite Earths, so they can basically wipe out the slate and just reset?
They probably could. And it's just one of those things that I honestly believe the first wave should not have been Suicide Squad, and I don't even think, like, how many are actually in the first wave? Flash, I think, is in the first wave. Cyborg isn't. Cyborg's after Justice League. And Aquaman, I think, is just before Justice League.
No, actually, it's pretty much Wonder Woman, and then we're getting Justice League, because all the other, like, Flash, Aquaman, all those other films have been slated for after Justice League, because Wonder Woman and Justice League are the only ones currently in production.
Which ones? Wonder Woman and Justice League? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, yeah, Flash would be after. So at that point, we have no reason to be built up towards either Barry Allen. Is it Barry Allen or is it Wally West?
I have no idea.
I think it's Barry Allen. I think he's the one that's mentioned in the trailer. We have no reason to get invested in Arthur Curry right now. So right now we have a chat storm going on. The character's backstory was given. Really? I would actually dare say that Batman's wasn't. Well, actually, no. Batman's was. Superman wasn't, or Superman was. Flash wasn't.
I think he's talking Suicide Squad, not Batman v Superman.
How was it explained? A rap sheet is not explaining it.
That is, because they're criminals.
Yeah, thing is,
well,
Captain Boomerang
I don't agree on that one.
Thing is, Captain Boomerang was the only one whose like flashback and lead up actually worked on a structural level, because they didn't waste their time like giving us like 20 minutes of like backstory. It was very simple. He was a villain. There was his gimmick. He got caught by the Flash. That was it. That was all we needed to know for his character. If they structured all the other characters that were part of the team to structure it, it would have worked a little bit better, because we wouldn't have wasted time trying to cram in, oh, it's Batman, let's look at Batman. Oh, it's Harley Quinn, let's delve into her backstory. If they kept to that simple structure,
we could have built into some of the other backstories instead of showing how they were apprehended.
I'm just saying they should have kept it simple, where there's like, here's this person, here's their gimmick, here's who caught them, that's it.
So at that point, you know, I'm going to have to... So there's a guy here that's kind of mad at what I'm saying here. We're going to have to agree to disagree here. I do not believe that the DC Universe has done as well a job as Marvel has right now, especially considering what they could have done at this given moment. These are characters with huge amounts of backstory. and they've squandered it, as far as I'm concerned. Batman v Superman is a living example of that, where they had great potential in Batman, in Superman, and in Wonder Woman, and all of it was squandered in order to build and hype towards ultimately a one-word switch around of characters' motivations. Okay? And I don't know if I'm going to be able to give you the argument you're wanting for, but I guess we're just going to have to disagree or agree to disagree on this one. I do not think that there was enough, especially in Suicide Squad, I think that there was some backstory given on a lot of these characters, but not enough. I would have loved to have seen more with Captain Boomerang. And
and alternately, I'm of the opposite opinion.
Also, I really think that certain villains shouldn't have even been in this movie.
Yeah, and alternately, I'm of the opposite opinion. We don't need more backstory because the film was front-loaded enough with exposition, and that was part of the problem. You literally had to get a cinematic equivalent of a Wikipedia page just to understand the story, and that's a problem. Because if you take too long, I mean, to look at kind of basic screenwriting conventions, if you're not getting to the main adventure, the main purpose of your story within 10 minutes, you have a problem. You're taking too long to actually get the ball rolling.
Okay, so Killer Croc. So this is brought up. Killer Croc was given backstory. I'm not denying that he was given backstory. Was he necessary? The Suicide Squad, they're brought in to fulfill a purpose in that goal. What was Killer Croc's? It should have been muscle, but they didn't do that. They instead went with the whole, he is a guy who can swim. Oh wait, we have military crew that can swim.
Yeah, and even the story is bad guys doing something good. Yeah, that's the story. They're just not telling it very well.
No,
that's the point
really
we're making here.
So, okay, we're going to get off of this. Again, we're going to have to agree to disagree here. That's one of the things that is just going to happen with these DC movies. I think they're going to be more divisive than anything.
Yeah, I mean,
Man of Steel proves that.
Yeah, and that's why they tried bringing in Jeff Johns and are probably trying to have him be kind of the Kevin Feige going forward, is because I think they've realized that, okay, Snyder isn't working, the people who were in charge are obviously don't know what they're doing, let's try to bring in some people who know what they're doing and see if we can save the sinking ship before we crash and burn.
So with that, we actually do have a couple of stories that we need to get, or that we can get into, and some of them are actually Suicide Squad related. So we're just going to go ahead and get into that and get into these additional stories to kind of wrap things up for the evening. So again, I think we're just going to have to agree to disagree on this one. It's just going to be a 50-50 thing.
Yeah, honestly, we've hammered the point in enough. The film is a mess, and honestly, speaking personally, I want to see what David Ayer's original cut looked like, because then I could at least try to understand what kind of story he was trying to tell, because as much as I didn't necessarily like David Ayer's other works, granted I've only seen Fury, I at the very least want to see the director's original vision to see maybe what they were trying to go for, because then maybe some of the things that we see in the film would make some sense. And honestly, I don't know if DC's ever going to release that actual cut, or if they're going to try to make an ultimate cut. Because that's the thing, the post-production's where things started to fall apart because of the various like behind-the-scenes issues and how the focus groups reacted to the trailers and so on and so forth. And so really, it's undeniable. The film has its problems. Some people like it, some people don't. I think we've all pretty much argued our cases pretty clearly here.
Yeah. So the first story that we're actually going to talk about, you actually presented, Romney, which is Suicide Squad related. So a UK fan and his brother have since filed a suit against WB, or Warner Brothers, for false advertising after viewing Suicide Squad. And the quote goes like this: Suicide Squad trailers showcased several specific Joker scenes that I had to pay for the whole movie just so that I can go watch those specific scenes that WB and DC had advertised in their trailers and TV spots. These scenes are when Joker banged his head on the car window, when Joker says, "Let me show you my toys," when Joker punches the roof on his car, when Joker drops a bomb with his face all messed up and says bye-bye. None of these scenes were in the movie. I drove 300 miles to London to go watch these specific scenes they had explicitly advertised in their TV ads, and they didn't show them to me. Okay.
You drove 300 miles to see a movie?
I know, right? Well, I mean, I've met other people who have driven further, probably. So my first indication when I read this was okay, you get that a trailer is just meant to be a tease, right?
Well,
that
to be fair,
certain scenes won't make it into the film.
Yeah. To be fair, though, it is a clear-cut false advertisement suit that he's filing, where it's very much, oh, they advertised that these scenes were going to be in the movie, and like that they were going to be featured prominently, and they weren't. It's kind of the same case where an advertiser, like if someone sold a product and they said, oh, this is going to make all your dishes clean within the first few seconds of use, and it turns out it takes 3 hours. That's an example of a case of false advertising, and that's kind of the suit that they're filing here.
So I guess the first question that comes to my mind is, do they have a case? I don't know if they do. Now they're basically just asking for a refund and compensation for the gas money, but well, lawsuits aren't really going to solve that small amount of money because you're going to get lawyers involved.
Plus, keep in mind this is in a UK court, and I'm not entirely familiar with how the United Kingdom does, like how they handle lawsuits or how their legal system works. So there's a lot of other factors to consider here just in regards to how to play out. And so, honestly, I don't see the suit going very far. I don't even think it's going to really make it to a full-on trial. I mean, unless somehow these two brothers have really, really good lawyers. But even then, it's probably just more or less, I just get the feeling that the lawsuit is more filed more to just make a statement in general, not really to actually get money from Warner Brothers.
Yeah, this guy is suing Warner Brothers DC. So that's who the suit is directed towards. I don't know how successful they're going to be on getting a refund and their gas money back, but good on them. They want to do that. I do know that following, not this story in particular, but following Twitter on this concept, a lot of people took it as they were basically suing for however many scenes the Joker was in, or that they wanted more scenes in there. I guess you're just going to have to wait for the ultimate cut, which is probably going to have the 30 to 40 minutes of Joker.
Yeah, thing is, that I worry of whether or not the ultimate cut will actually be Ayer's original vision or another Frankenstein chop job that we got in the theater.
Your guess is as good as mine. Because, I mean, we've already heard about the ultimate cut from Aldo, who is actually in the chat right now, and he was not impressed by the ultimate cut for Batman v Superman. So I can already tell you I'm not holding my breath for Suicide Squad ultimate cut. I don't know if there probably won't be an ultimate cut. They'll figure out another word for it or something like that. But Alex, your thoughts on the suing Warner Brothers for gas money and the ticket?
Well, Bromley's right. It's more just to make a statement about false advertising in trailers, but really everybody, it's, as much as I hate false advertising, I hate lying in advertising at all, but at the same time, it's a movie and it's a trailer, and you have to take all trailers with some grains of salt that they're probably going to lie to you to get you into the theater. At the end of the day, it's not like lying to you about a specific medicine that's going to make you feel better in 20 minutes versus 2 seconds, okay? It's, I'm sorry that your time was wasted and that you went way out of your way to go see a movie that may or may not be good, but that's the problem with trailers, is they're often compiled pretty early on during the movie's production, so you never really know what's going to end up. Some scenes are just bound to end up on the cutting room floor. So as much as I hate false advertising, I hate frivolous lawsuits even more.
Yeah, and this kind of reeks of frivolous, because I mean, if it was bigger money than this, then I'd probably be a little bit more intrigued by it and whether or not it was going to succeed. I just don't think this is going to. Even in a UK court, I don't see this flying in a US court or even in a European court, like an EU court.
Well, yeah, keep in mind, given that the UK exited the EU, basically, point being, it's just not really going to go anywhere. It's more or less kind of a fan effort publicity stunt. I mean, I do feel kind of bad, but the guy drove from Scotland all the way to London. And there were multiple theaters he passed along the way, and that's why a lot of people are thinking, yeah, this is probably more a publicity stunt / a statement they're trying to make about the problems with the film in general. People have done it before. It's probably not going to go very far. Yeah.
So the next story that I do want to get into before we start wrapping things up, which did actually get listener requested, and we can bust through it really quick. In fact, Romney found it, which was the announcement that NBC Universal has bought Harry Potter. Now, we need to clarify something, because the listener that posted this to me took this out of proportion a little bit, because I had to go look. I'm thankful that Romney put up the story, because immediately the first thing that came to my mind was, at least from the listener's perspective, was NBC bought it out of J.K. Rowling's hand. And, well, I don't think that's going to happen. I think she likes her little cauldron of money, and she's fine. So at that point, could you please clarify really quick, Romney, as to what this deal actually entails?
All right, to assuage the fear, and this does relate, since we're talking about Warner Brothers here, what NBC Universal has done is that they bought the rights to the 8 movies. Now, what this means is that they've bought TV, cable, and streaming rights to the Harry Potter movies, meaning that they can show it on NBC and the networks that they own as a company. So they can show it on NBC, they can show it on USA, they can show it on the network and cable television stations that they own.
And if I remember correctly, if somebody else wants to show it, they have to pay NBC a royalty?
No, it's not even that. It's more or less that they have the rights to show it on their television networks. That is pretty much, if anyone else wants to show it, they can't, because NBC bought the rights. It's kind of like when Spike TV bought the rights to show Star Wars on their network. No one else could show Star Wars on their network because they're the ones who bought the TV rights. And that's what it is here, is that NBC Universal bought the TV airing rights, the cable airing rights, and the internet streaming rights to the 8 Harry Potter movies and Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, meaning they can show those movies on any of their television and cable networks and can offer it through any of the streaming services that they as a company own. And
does that in turn like bar others from doing it? Because I mean, like, I know just out of experience, like ABC Family or Freeform now love showing marathons of the Harry Potter movies. Does that just mean they can't do it?
That pretty much means they can't do it anymore, because NBC now has the rights to it, which means it's going to show on an NBC network. Because that's how television broadcast rights work for these movies, is that if one company has bought the rights, unless there's a specific stipulation in the contract, that's it. They're the ones who can show the movies on their networks, and no one can do anything unless they decide to either pay more money than NBC Universal, or if somehow NBC Universal or Warner Brothers decides to break the contract. Now, what
even
this
I
means,
missed this story. I really did.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what this means, is that NBC Universal can show it on any of their networks. They can show it on any of the streaming services they control. Warner Brothers still has the rights to make the Harry Potter movies and any movies going forward, and they still make money off of theatrical releases and home video releases. This does not mean NBC Universal controls the franchise. It just means that they can show it on their TV networks, cable networks, and streaming services that they own.
This is just talking about the media. When I say media, I'm talking like visual media. This is the movies only. This isn't covering the books. And it is covering Fantastic Beasts, the film that is going to be coming out. But this isn't covering the books. The most recent book or manuscript book that just came out. I don't know what to call it. A manu book. There you go. This is not affecting J.K. Rowling by any stretch. This is just distribution for the Harry Potter films. So you will, instead of being able to see that on, I don't know, insert Disney Channel here or whatever, you're going to be seeing it on NBC from here on.
And as an added little thing, they've also negotiated to show various other cuts of the movies. So, for example, there's the extended editions of the Harry Potter movies. They have the rights to show that on their networks now, which they may very well do on their cable networks. And so that's pretty much the idea, is that they have the broadcast rights to the 8 movies, Fantastic Beasts, and films going forward on television, on cable, and through streaming, whereas home video and theatrical releases are still controlled by Warner Brothers, as they're the ones who are still going to be making the movies.
Exactly. So I'm glad we clarified that really quick, because I do know that a couple of people were getting this out of proportion, that it included more than it did. In fact, somebody was actually a friend of mine was bringing to me, is like, oh, well, this is just because they own the park rights and things like that. And I'm like, I don't even think the park rights are even involved in this whole thing.
They are, because that was actually part of the negotiation, so that way they could retain the theme park rights to have the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. It was part of those negotiations that after a certain amount of time, the contract would be signed over to NBC Universal. It's just now that news is actually breaking, and so after a certain point, I don't know if it's by the end of the year or by a certain point of next year, where the contract rights will go from Disney.
With most of these contracts, it's end of the year. If they're getting announced now, it's going to be end of the year.
Yeah, and so pretty much it means that it'll transition from Disney over to NBC Universal, because that's how contracts work.
Yep. So Alex, do you have any final thoughts on this one? I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward, and all I can say is, well, there goes Freeform. Because I think Harry Potter is like 90% of their content is playing Harry Potter movies, and let's face it, nobody tunes in.
We were on vacation. Was me and my wife were just looking there and just going, so ABC Family is defunct as of now because they do so many Harry Potter movie marathons.
It's true. Let's face it, nobody's tuning in for the 700 Club. So,
yeah.
So there you go, Freeform. You're pretty much dead now.
Well, I guess my wife can look forward to Pretty Little Liars marathons instead. With that being said, though, let's go ahead and wrap things up because we are almost at time. And first of all, I want to thank everybody in the chat as well as my panelists. Thank you guys so much for being involved in this discussion. As much as we are three geeks who have our own opinions on how these movies worked out, we do like to hear from you guys because obviously we're not the only geeks in the room. And I actually do like to have, despite what it looks like in the chat, I like having a contrary opinion to my own because that means, at least in my opinion, that geek works, that passion still works in the argument. So I'm glad that we were able to have that. In fact, I was able to hear back from Brinton, and it turns out he actually liked it too. He thought it had flaws, but he felt it outperformed Batman v Superman, which I would say wasn't really hard to do. But yeah, so I'm thankful that we were able to get this off our chests. But let's go ahead and wrap things up. If people want to get a hold of us to be able to see all of the content that we do, as well as be able to give their opinions on what we said tonight, Alex the Shadow Blazer, Shadow Senpai, how do they get a hold of you?
Well,
before I tell you to know.
Well, Adam Sensei. You can find me, of course, on YouTube. Shadow Blazer 3000 is my main channel, and of course I do anime content for most of the time, and I do some game content on the side as well because I do enjoy what I do. You can find me on various social networks, including Twitter at AlexJShort is my handle, and of course you can find me on other anime sites like myanimelist.net, animeplanet.com, I think it is. Let me check.
I just like to point out in the chat, somebody actually did say my mom watches the 700 Club. So nice work, Shadow Blazer.
Okay, so somebody out there does. Okay, so once again, find me on Twitter at AlexJShort is my handle, animeplanet.com, myanimelist.net, and I'm also now on hummingbird.me/user/ShadowBlazer3000. Yeah, you can find me on a lot of anime sites. So you can find me and make fun of my taste in anime. Go ahead.
And you actually have something, or are you ready to tease it, or is it not ready?
Yeah. Well, it's not ready. I'm still working on it, but I am steadily working on my next review, and that is going to be Akatsuki no Yona, or as the English title is, Yona of the Dawn. That is going to be my next anime review. It's coming up hopefully soon enough. I gotta get to work on it, really.
Okay. And then also, before we get to Romney, I'd also like to pimp out the fact that this summer we've had a big event going on to all the newcomers here, especially towards the Shadow Blazer. If you're fans of his channel and his work, we have been doing Gaming with the Geeks in kind of a special way this summer, in the fact that we've been doing individual Let's Plays for the panelists. And with him, we're actually covering Rise of the Tomb Raider, and my wife Andrea is joining us along for the ride. So you guys can check out, because we actually got really cool technical questions for Alex and his viewpoints on anime and certain types of anime, whether or not certain kinds of review, bunch of technical questions that you guys can look into. So go ahead and check out the Let's Play of Rise of the Tomb Raider with Alex the Shadow Blazer, myself, as well as my wife Andrea, and then Stephen Romney of Romney's Reviews From the Shelf of Dang It, I Expect a Crystal Pepsi Review on your channel. How do people get a hold of you?
Well, you can always find me here on YouTube at youtube.com/StudioGhostUtah. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Romney'sReviews, no apostrophe. And I am also on Twitter at Romney Reviews. And as for this week's recommendation of Romney's Reading Club, I am recommending the classic Lone Wolf and Cub by Kazuo Koike and Goseki Kojima. It is a classic manga series. It's unique in its accurate depictions of Edo Japan. I mean, anybody who has seen any major samurai films and samurai anime a lot of it takes a lot of inspiration from this classic story. It's a classic story about a man and his child on a journey of revenge after he's basically framed by a traitor to the lord that he served. That's an oversimplification of the story, but it's a classic manga. I highly recommend it to anybody. It's available through Dark Horse in these large omnibuy. So that's my recommendation this week is Lone Wolf and Cub.
All right, and also just a quick pimp for him because it just barely started today. Again, Gaming with the Geeks, the special Let's Play for Romney is also of the first 3 episodes at least of the original Metal Gear. So we're talking the MSX Metal Gear, not the NES version, and that's with myself, with the Shadow Blazer, as well as Stephen Romney, who is actually helming it because he is the Metal Gear expert, not I. And if for no other reason, I want you guys to watch it just because this is the Shadow Blazer's first time at not only Metal Gear, but a Hideo Kojima game, period. So you guys get to see a unique perspective in those regards as well. And then also, we do have another Gaming with Geeks that was done for Brinton Volley, if you guys are fans of him, with Devil May Cry 3. That was just me and Brinton, but check that out as well, because the full Q&A after, which is going to happen after these 2 Let's Plays, is up for that as well. Now, if people want to get a hold of me, there are 2 ways to be able to do it online. One is my Twitter handle, which is on the screen, @Drac2326. I try to keep up with it as best as I can, but as Alex can attest, me and the social networking doesn't work out that well. I am the old fart on the podcast. But I do actually try to reply to you guys when I get something directly from you. The other way is through my YouTube channel. That's where most of my interaction goes in, is through the channel, either via private messages or comments. And you guys can check out all of the other content that I do aside from Geek News. I do video game reviews. I do Let's Plays. I've been doing a ton of WoW content aside from the Gaming with the Geeks stuff this summer. In fact, I'm making a push for 100 subscribers. I'm really close, and thank you guys so much for helping out with that process. And once I hit 100 subscribers, I will be doing an Ask Me Anything live stream just so you guys can get to know me, and who knows, you might actually see a couple of these jokers join in just to either ask questions or get questions asked of them. So plenty of things to be able to have there. I'm 27 and I feel like an old fart. I wish you were an old fart, because, well, wait, no, I don't, because that means I'm an older fart. Because I'm older than that. I'm not telling you my age, dang it. And with that, if you guys want to get a hold of the show directly, there are 4 ways to be able to do it, and 2 of them are social networking. One is our Twitter handle, @GeekyNRO. And you can look us up on Facebook for Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, and like it. For both of those, you'll get up-to-the-minute information when we're going live, the stuff we might be talking about. We actually are going to be starting to look towards you guys' feedback on some of these more opinion-based stories, just to be able to get more diverse opinions on it. As well as, I love to pimp the various content that these guys are doing. So if you want to see the latest review by Romney, that's probably the best way to be able to do it. And I actually, really quick, Romney, you were trying to decide what movie you were going to review this week. Did you come to a decision?
I did, and I did see it. It's just life kind of got in the way, which is why the review is coming out late. Mainly because it's hard when you have a movie that you don't have much to say about. That is all I will say at this point. But, yeah, I did come to a decision. The review should be up tomorrow. It's just life kind of got in the way.
Okay, so you guys have that to look forward to, and we'll be putting that up on the social networking. The other 2 ways are if you guys want to submit stories to us, as well as your feedback on the podcast, on the stories that we're covering, things like that. You can submit that via email at geekyweek@gmail.com. And please send as many of that, like, if there are at least 2 stories to corroborate that, that helps our process out, and there are people that are doing that. Thank you guys so much for doing it. It saves so much work for us, especially me, because I'm running it. And then also, you can check us out for the live RSS feed at geekyweek.podomatic.com, and that has an iTunes link to be able to give you an iTunes RSS feed. And I know that the archive's a little outdated, but we're working on that. We're going to get that up to date for you guys. I'm going to try very hard to get out the Suicide Squad review at least on there, so you guys can listen to that, as well as much of an archive as I can. Unfortunately, I wanted a bigger archive, but it's just not going to work out. So with that being said, those are the ways to be able to get a hold of us. And again, thank you guys so much for participating, especially the live chat. We love you guys, even though sometimes we don't agree. We can come together and say we're all geeks, and I appreciate that. But that's going to go ahead and do it for us. So for me, for Romney, and for Alex, and also before I end, We actually started up the live chat a little bit earlier this week. Leave us feedback on whether or not you want us to do that more often. Because I would love to be able to hear from you guys on that, and maybe we'll start doing that so you guys can ask the questions before we actually do the podcast. That being said, for me, for Romney, and for Alex, and for Brinton and Aldo, who were punks and didn't show up, we will see you guys for more geek news, reviews, and opinions. No, Aldo, I will not stop. You